Hello, welcome to this kind of interesting stream. Actually, we're just going to go straight into having a look at what is in front of me. So in front of me right now is a very cheap router. For those of you who've been around the channel for a while, I had one of these a long time ago. Well, actually, not that long ago, I guess. But it was horrible, and I broke it very quickly. And for a long time, I've been meaning to upgrade it to something good. And unfortunately, I basically don't have the space in my house for something big and good. So, yes, we are instead doing something small. This is just a very slight upgrade off of the 2812, I think it was, that I had before. But it does have some features on it that I quite like. Also, I will point out very quickly, and right now, this is not a sponsored thing. I have bought this with my own money because... yeah, I wanted to be able to kind of build this and use this and not have to placate a company on anything. But as mentioned, it does look like it's got a lot of features on it that I like, that are different and better than the 2812. First of all, it's an all-metal construction, and second of all, it does actually have a proper spindle motor, which I think is, yes, right here. It is a little bit stubby, there we go. But it does actually have a proper collet mechanism on it and stuff, so I shouldn't break this one like I broke the last one, basically. Good morning to all of you out there, and good evening and all of that. It is currently evening where I am. Also, the other thing I will say really quickly too is there is a video from me coming out today. However, I had just a ton of issue rendering it for some reason today, so it is late. I have only just uploaded it on my computer, and YouTube now needs to take it and, you know, do all the definition changes and stuff that YouTube does. So once the stream is done, I will press the launch video button over there, and you guys will be able to watch this week's video, which is actually a fight report after the madness that was trying to get a 13 kilo robot ready for Robot Havoc. Not Robot Havoc, Robo Wars, which is Australia's 13 kilo robot competition. Also, I will say too, like I said, this guy is a little bit stubby. A little while back, I actually bought myself a different spindle because I wanted to put a better spindle on the old machine. And then when I got it, I was like, this is ridiculous. There's no way I'm putting this new spindle on here, and I'll show you what I mean. I mean, this is, like I said, a little short and stubby spindle, but the other spindle I have, if it comes out of there, and I'm losing bolts already. That's going to be a fun thing. This is the other spindle that I have. So about the same diameter, but just a lot more motor. So realistically, I could actually probably upgrade this motor, this router to run this motor at some point in the future. And I've lost a bolt. One hit the ground, the other one, I don't know, has vanished into the ether somewhere. We will find that later on. I'm sure it's just under my feet somewhere. Anyway, like I said, I've got options with this particular machine, and I feel like this machine is much better to take the really big spindle rather than the old one, which was very silly. Where did I buy it and how much was it? This was an AliExpress purchase. It was on sale, so it was like 50% off or something. It was like 250 Australian dollars, which isn't too bad for what it is, or at least I think so. It's going to hopefully allow me to make beta weight parts. That's what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming to just cut HDPE with this. I really want to make beta weight frames in my house without having to go anywhere. It will allow me to rapid prototype a lot easier and more often, basically, which will just help with making beta weight stuff. It also maybe will help with featherweight stuff. I mean, being able to cut some parts on this for the featherweight will be handy, but the build base isn't really large enough to really be messing around with featherweight stuff, so, you know, there's kind of a trade-off there. A CNC is the next big purchase that I would love to get, maybe Black Friday this year. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, like I said, I bought the little CNC to kind of mess around with CNCing and get into that whole process, and I very quickly learnt that a lot of the things about it I just did not like at all. Anyway, we're going to jump on into this. I have this nice overhead camera set up. Under here, I've got a bunch of tools, including the basically pencil case full of tools that I took to fight my featherweight over in Brisbane. So I think we should be okay. I also saw that in this bag, they've given a whole bunch of Allen keys. These are probably pretty bad Allen keys, I would say. But, you know, maybe they will do the job. There's also a lot of bolts in this thing. I'm also going to point out, I'm not expecting to get this machine like moving in this stream necessarily. Certainly not going to get it cutting in this stream. I have my laptop nearby, but setting up software and things, especially through a machine that I'm not streaming on, is just going to be so very boring for all of you out there. So we'll get the machine going. Hopefully get it moving. I got a add-on for this that actually like it has a little like touch screen, so I should be able to like move all of the axes around just through that. But trying to get the software set up for cutting something, I think it's just going to be too much for today. We do have a manual. This manual looks kind of okay. There's a huge list of parts up the front here, which I'm just going to ignore for the moment. But I will say this is the quality of diagram we're getting here. Things are done in steps, sure, but at the same time, like, there's a lot of things happening per step. This is not an IKEA level manual. However, I will say, it is in English, which is incredible for an AliExpress product, especially a fairly cheap AliExpress product. I was kind of expecting to have to find an English manual somewhere or Google Translate one that I found online, and this one actually seems to be in English, so I would like something like that for 150 gram robots. Yeah. So this type of machine, especially this size of machine, certainly would be good for beetles and ants, I reckon. But again, going up into featherweights, you're going to be a little bit restricted by the bed size on the thing. And I know that going into this project, because again, I don't really have the space in my house for a bigger machine right now. So we're just going to run with this. Also, I will say this is really good. They did actually include an Australian plug. For those of you out there not in Australia, this is what an Australian plug looks like. They're a kind of weird slanted-y design, which is very interesting. What is this guy? Oh, this is my offline controller. Okay, so there were two different versions of this. There's a like button pressy one and a touchpad one. I've got the touchpad one because I was like, well, it was 20 bucks extra or something. I might as well. So that can go to the side. I'm assuming that is going to be the very last thing we do is hook up this offline controller. There's also a USB in there, so that's interesting. I do wonder if there's anything on that that could be helpful. Oh well, we have a book of instructions. We're just going to try and run with the book of instructions. That's what I like to see, some cable ties. That's, I mean, I'm assuming that is for what cable ties are actually for, which is tying cables to pieces of the machine. Some bearings, some more bolts, some more tools, a brush. Okay. What else have we got in here? We've got the motor, got some cable tray, another USB. Okay. That's odd. Yeah, these are definitely going to get plugged into my laptop. Yeah, because some of these, yeah, you don't trust random USBs, certainly not from a place you don't understand. Oh, and collets. Okay, that is the collet nut and collet for the motor. That's good. Didn't my old CNC just have a manual in Chinese? Yes, it did. And that is why, actually, if you go and look at the old CNC build video, a lot of people watched that video because the manuals that came on it were in just all in Chinese. And so you had to, like, semi-Google translate them, but also not, because then the pictures didn't line up properly. So a lot of people watched that video basically to watch me high-speed build the thing and then try and do the same process to build their own, and I really probably actually should have gone back and done a build guide, but also at the same time that's kind of rewarding a Chinese company for not putting out a manual if somebody like me takes 4 to 5 hours to sit down and do a proper like build guide, especially as all of this type of stuff from China you'll never know for sure if you bought this kit tomorrow, if the same kit would show up or not. Like, there's a big problem with, you know, this thing is called a 3018, but there's like 4 of those machines, and then if you buy something that looks similar to this, you might get a version 2 or a version 3. So, you know, using this as a build guide may not actually help you necessarily. Also, I'm just pulling more random stuff out. We've got cables, we've got a control board here, which is interesting. I see a USB drive with most likely malware. Yeah, that's, you know, I will plug that into a machine that I don't really worry about too much and usually runs offline and see what's actually on it. I mean, the manual does talk about the control software that it's talking about, that it wants to use, which does feel kind of similar to the last software that I used. So it's possible that I don't have to use that USB anywhere, and can probably just run this from the software I've already got for the 2812 or whatever that tiny little machine is. I don't think I've ever used a cable tie for its intended purpose. Yeah, that is one of those things that I feel like, unless you're like an industry electrician or an industry fitter, then using cable ties for their intended purpose is very rare. Oh, okay. So we've got some kind of like clamp ring thing for, I'm assuming, for the actual motor itself. And then we've got a set of bits, which I think all of these are just going to be like engraver V-bit style things. They're not really for cutting, they're more for, yeah, engraving and putting a mark on a workpiece. All right, then let's get, oh, that's nice. This whole Z carriage is already built. Huh, I honestly wasn't expecting that. That is really, really handy because now I don't have to do that. Nice! Especially as this bit is a bit of a pain. From the old build that I did, getting the linear rod into such a tight space and getting everything to line up can be a bit of a pain. And also pressing bearings in is definitely a pain. These linear type bearings, I would need to have bought a vise out here basically to pinch those into where they need to be. So really happy with that. That's like made for me effectively. Okay. And then down here, we have some aluminium extrusion. That looks like the bed. That's fairly solid. All right. I like that. Oh, I'm getting marks all over my fancy new bed. I'm assuming it goes that way up because then I've got more points to connect things to. I am going to rapidly run out of space if I try and like stack all this on the desk around the box. Maybe it's time to move the box off the desk. I'm going to put my manual away for a second. The ones I saw online were 120 volts. Is this for 230? So I think this is, yeah, so it's running a power brick. So this power brick, like most power bricks, is rated for 100 to 240 volt, which means that you can plug any adapter into there and run it in anywhere in the world, and it just runs off of that because these power bricks have stuff inside them that allows that to happen effectively. So yeah, that does also mean though, obviously, that all of the power for this entire machine is coming from this one power brick, including for the spindle motor. So yeah, the output power on this thing is probably not great. But again, I do have that bigger spindle motor that has its own motor controller, so we could upgrade to that in the future if, you know, I wanted to start like machining aluminium or something on this, which possibly should be able to. I mean, look at this thing. That is a solid, chunky aluminium rail, and the whole thing apparently is metal. So theoretically, I should be able to cut Ali on this machine, probably quite slowly, I would say. But look, I will take being able to slowly cut aluminium over not being able to cut it at all, because currently I really can't, and I definitely couldn't. Well, okay, I could produce something like this, but it would take me all day to produce something like that. That's a lot of holes. But with a CNC machine, it should be fairly doable. Oh, there's another bolt. It was on my leg, apparently. Put that away for a moment. And then we have more pieces. Oh, good. Okay, so I'm assuming this is like beds, maybe? Carriage. And again, we've got bearings pressed in. Could you also order something like that from Send? Yes, I could. However, here's the thing. As an Australian, you guys in America are spoiled like all hell because places like Send will cut you something and get it to you in a week. That is not possible here in Australia. When I get like hardox cut for a featherweight or I want to get parts cut in any way, I either have to go to a local manufacturer who, to go to local manufacturers, you have to like basically email them a quote request, get a quote request, approve it, get an invoice, pay the invoice. Then they're like, cool, it's 2 weeks to get it for us to do that part for you. You then wait 2 weeks and then they're like, right, we're in Sydney, we're putting on the slow boat to you, it's going to be another week. So that's 3 weeks for a local part to get to me. And if I don't do that, then I need to go to somewhere in China. So like PCBWay, I can go to PCBWay and say, here are these aluminium gears that I need, please machine those for me. And again, it takes them like a week and a half, and then they will DHL that to me, which is a fairly fast shipping company, but still, it's still like 2 weeks of wait time for me to get, this. So, 2 weeks of wait time to get this, or sit down and cut it by hand in a day. If you're doing things really quickly, I know which one I would do. And again, you in America are very, very lucky because you can send something and have it within a week, and that's like slow, basically. I've said a number of times to a number of different people that BattleBots would just not work in Australia because the amount of teams that order stuff from McMasterCart and get next day delivery so that they can get their robots back together again for their fights is insane. And you would never, ever have shipping that fast in Australia. You would be like, cool, we need 8 more bolts or, a new weapon shaft for our robot to get it running. We can't fight again for a week at a bare minimum. Like, yeah, Australia is just seemingly in the middle of nowhere when it comes to shipping things here, even inside the country, which is really, really annoying. So yes, you kind of need to make do a little bit, and that is part of the reason why I've got myself a little CNC machine. Oh, and yes, you're in Europe. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So Europe is fairly similar. It is mostly just America that are very, very lucky that they can just get things manufactured fairly easily. Cool. And we've got some more very nice looking extrusion with tapped ends, it looks like. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that, but yeah, the holes in the ends of those are tapped, which is pretty cool. I think the motor power is like 50 watts. Yeah, so the motor power... Yeah, so the motor power, like, it is 50 watts for the big motor that I have. I think the small motor that came with this kit's probably more like 10 watts or something. Yeah, it's not going to be a great deal. Razor saying some of us make do with pickup. Well, that is, what you can do when you are in the same city as the one good laser cutting company in the entirety of Australia. Yeah, some of us have to make do with getting them to cut things and then organizing couriers to get those parts to us after that point. Which takes time. Oh man, I am very happy so far with what I'm seeing. All of these parts are fairly solid and substantial, and definitely metal, which, you know what, this was advertised as an all-metal CNC, and I was like, nah, there's no way. They've, cut corners, they've done something. But it seems like even this guy is, aluminium componentry, so that's pretty good as far as I'm concerned. It's definitely going to be able to eat through HDPE, no problem. And then, all the important bits. The lead screws and the rods to hold all the axles together. If any of these have come out of alignment, we are stuffed, basically. If any of these aren't straight, which, shipping them internationally in a cardboard box, they may not be. Is that everything in this box? Yes, it is. Okay. Goodbye, box. And now, oh, there's some grease on those. I think what I'm going to start with is these because, again, I don't get next day delivery from Master, but I will get it 2 days later. I know I'm spoiled. Yes, yeah. And yes, Australia is massive. It is basically the size of America, but with the population of, I think, one of your smaller states, effectively. Like, our population is just nothing in comparison. But again, I think I'm going to start with these because, again, if these are messed up or in any way bent in shipping, then I'm going to have to get replacements, and doing this build is entirely just unnecessary because it will not work. So, get these guys out of here. Boop, boop. Alright. So far, not too bad. I don't see any noticeable warping, but let's give him a little roll test. Okay. Pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with that. I mean, this table's not totally flat, but, so there's absolutely no robot combat within 500 kilometer circle of me. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very difficult to do. I will say you don't need alley extrusion for making an arena. None of the ARC arenas have used alley extrusion in them. The only arena around that uses any alley extrusion is something that I will talk about in a future video. But yeah, no, all of those have been done with 20 by 20 steel section, and I think the first one was even actually 40 by 40 aluminium angle up the corner, just like from a local hardware store. So bolting the Lexan into these little aluminium corners effectively. But that was for an Antweight arena, which I feel like that's more doable for an Antweight. You wouldn't want to do something like that for a Beetleweight necessarily, but you can get away with it for Antweights. Okay. Alright, last one. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. I think we've actually got fairly straight rods still. None of these really give me any indication that they have bent in shipping, which, that's phenomenal. I kind of blown away by that. Alright, let us get the manual in. So again, there's a whole bunch of parts listed here. Now, base assembly is done in 2 steps, so this is going to be interesting. Now, I've definitely seen some of these parts before. Right, the 4040 and the 4040. That is our 2 sides here. Alright, and that's 2040, and that's 2040. Alright, we don't need those for the moment. Let's start kind of shuffling some stuff around. Also, I brought a hammer along, just in case. So, there, with Beetleweight, there's no way I can build something safe, but I don't have any place to store a full arena. Yeah. So again, ARC started with an arena that could be stored flat. As mentioned, there were these aluminium angles in the corners, but you basically unbolted one of the panels from each, and so they're then kind of like concertinaed into each other, and it was laid flat. However, currently what ARC is doing is we have a venue that we hire out that then also has storage space. They're like a big community kind of sports hall thing, and so they had some spare storage space, and so the arena lives there. It doesn't actually live with the guys who run ARC, or at least not anymore. Originally it did, and they would have to like cart it in every event, but then they realized that was silly, and they started looking specifically for venues with excess storage space so that they could sit down and just leave the arena there. And so yeah, when we go home from an event, we pack that all down, we push it into their storage space and just walk away, basically. The only thing that does mean is that when there are problems in the arena, it takes a long time to fix them because we don't have consistent access to the arena. It's part of the reason why the pits have been unfortunately broken for a while now. But there's been a couple of different people looking at different solutions, so I'm hoping sometimes this year the pits will get back up and running again. But yeah, it's a difficult thing to do when you're storing your arena somewhere else. All right, so... Oh, okay. This is interesting because there are two different sizes of rod here. 12 mil by 290. Right. So let's get a ruler out and check out what we're doing here. How's it going, Nick? All right. Assume the lift at the lights is fixed. I don't know at this point. I hope so. We got word that it was being fixed, but we have not had word that it is actually fixed. So I really hope so, because next weekend is the competition, and I have something very interesting that I really, really want to fight. But yeah, it will depend on what the lights is doing. One of the guys who runs the show has said that he's going to contact the lights before the event and just double, triple check to make sure that the lift is actually working and that we're going to be able to get in there. All right, so that is my two sliders. That's cool. I now need... Oh, the brackets that I need are literally underneath the instructions. So we need that in here. That's pretty good. There's not a lot of... Like, there's a lot of play that way, but not a lot of play, like, wobbling this way. So that's good. And yeah, like I said, hopefully we'll actually have an event this time around. I am very, very keen for this next event. Unfortunately, my low drinks build, this guy, he won't get to fight this time around because it is going to be a beetle event, not an ant event. So we're going to have to wait until May for a new ant event to get low drinks running. And I probably am actually going to build a second A-League bot for that event, just because I still kind of think that low drinks is going to be a glass cannon and is going to explode into a million pieces. So, you know, we do what we can. Right, let's see. So I've got some M6 and M5 bolts that need to go in here, and I need the other aluminium plates. These guys. Right. I think we're actually going to get rid of the spindle, the axis here, just put them on the floor, put them in foam on the floor. Thrilling content, I know. Person bent over looking at stuff that you cannot see at all. Alright, I'm just going to get rid of some of the stuff that I don't think we need. We'll need a motor very soon. I think we'll need that guy very soon. We won't need cable ties very soon. We do need bolts now, effectively. Alright, so we've got motor couplings, which they can stay with the motor. Get rid of this USB full of malware. We don't need that for quite some time. Hopefully never. We'll see. Oh, we've got some, like, rubberized feet. Oh, and control knobs. Okay, yeah. So we'll be able to wind two of the axes manually, which... Oh. Yeah, okay. So the Z doesn't have an access point to wind it manually. Not sure I like that. The other little CNC had that, and that was actually kind of handy, especially on the Z. Like, Z is really good to be able to wind manually. I'm guessing that means Vogon Poetry is on hiatus. Yeah, currently. I've just been messing around with other robots, effectively. I could bring Vogon Poetry back. It'd be interesting. I've been thinking about talking to PCBWay to try and get them to cut some saws. Because I tried at one point with just some stainless steel saws, but they were always a little bit flimsy and a little bit meh. But PCBWay can do tool steel, so I'm thinking that maybe I'll try and get them to cut me some tool steel saws for Vogon Poetry and just see how that comes out. That could be fun, actually. Yes, CNC build. I'm regretting having to pull apart my XYZ Carvey. Um, yeah, that's a thing. I think you can just shove Gerbil files into this thing, so ideally you don't need any software. Well, I'm hoping, I'm like that little offline control board, I think will allow me to just run Gerber files, which will definitely be a great improvement and mean that I won't need any of their software, which would be really nice. Okay. Not sure about those. So what I just picked up here, I'll try and show this to the camera a little bit better. The camera is probably not going to focus on these. These are the brass nuts that go on these lead screws. They're a little small, actually. And, I mean, they carry the force of the entire, like, bed movement or axis movement. So having these snap would be a real pain in the butt. And, yeah, again, they look kind of flimsy, which I'm not too happy about, but I guess we'll find out. All right, so I brought calipers out here because this is the thing with builds like this from manufacturers like this. They just give you a big old bag of bolts, and then they tell you what size bolts you need, but yeah, there is no way to distinguish the bolts that are in any of these bags. So I'm just going to quickly measure some of these up. So we can do this in bag. Right, those are 5mm bolts. Are these 6mm bolts? Right, okay. Those would be 6mm bolts. Which I think means that these have to be the only bolts that can run these sliders. That's the only way that makes sense to me. Also, I have a feeling that I'm going to mess something up here. Because again, I've only got pictures here. And I've only got one picture per... Oh, actually, these aren't double-sided. Okay. One of the sets of these plates has got like pockets and recesses and stuff in it, and I wasn't seeing that clearly on here, so I was like, well, I'm gonna mess this up and I'm gonna put the pocket around the wrong way, but thankfully it's not for the base, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, basically. Alright, so that means this size bolt in... Oh, okay. We don't get a lot of bolt on the other side of our thing here. That is a little bit interesting. I'm gonna do this nicely. Oh yeah, that'll work. I think we're gonna do, we'll do this up slightly finger tight for the moment. Sorry for bumping the mic there. We'll do this up slightly finger tight for the moment, and then once everything is together, then I will tighten everything down, because that's just kind of good practice, really. Shouldn't ever really attach things super tight until you've got it all somewhat together. Alright. So, this is the bed rails going in. Alright, that's that side. Alright, this could be a little bit of an awkward thing to kind of keep throwing this around all over the place. There we go. Okay. Nice. But yes, definitely, you can see there's still a bit of wobble and play in here, because I haven't actually got everything sussed out yet. Oh. Okay. That's interesting. There are holes in here which seem to be threaded. But yeah, I'm not too sure which way round these go. Is there any indication on this image? No, there is no indication on this image. Uh-oh. This is going to be the bit that I mess up, I think. Alright, let's actually... What we're going to do, rather than looking at this... Hopefully my YZ carve needs my computer to run. Oh, your X-Carve needs a computer to run, so hopefully this thing is smarter. I don't know about smarter. It's probably not, to be brutally honest. Ah, yes, it is. It is where the uprights go, and it looks like they come in from the side. Okay, so we need to make sure those are oriented out. Cool. I'm glad I looked that up before gung-hoing into this and breaking something. Or, well, not breaking something, building it in a way that I would have to rebuild the entire thing again later. And that is on the motor side, which is what I've done, not on the bearing side. Okay, cool. Always a good thing to double check things when you're like, oh, there's holes here that I don't understand. Imagine the holes going on that side. Yeah, there you go. Got it in one. If you have an image of the completed build, you can base it on the position of the bed motor. Yes. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing. This back here, in here, that side, that's the bed motor there, and this is the bearing for the other side. So I'm basing that, using my instructions to kind of very roughly base things there and see how we go at that point. Now, the next thing we need is M5 by 16. Now these are M6 by 16. These must be the same length. Yeah, cool. Right, so we've got a ton of these, which I assume means that these are kind of most of the build process is going to be M5 by 15 bolts. Again, we're just going to finger tight a lot of this in and then lock it all down after we've got all the bolts in so that we know that everything sits down nicely. Which, yes, this is kind of normally the bit that I would time-lapse because it's just going to be a lot of sitting here and screwing in bolts, which reminds me, I should actually look and see if my electric screwdriver will actually fit this. Nah, YOLO, it makes for a fun YouTube video. Yeah, I mean, it would make for a fun YouTube video. However, this is not a video. This is a live stream, and if I mess it up, we're going to sit here for another hour together as I redo the whole thing, which, I don't know, maybe that's your idea of fun. It would be kind of painful, I think, personally. Alright, that... Now, what was These are the bolts that I need. Right, those need a bigger hex. So that's good. We'll have a hex, probably, on my electric screwdriver. Is that the right hex? That's the right hex. Okay, here we go. As long as these get started, I can just go. Whoop! Okay, that's going to over-tighten them. That, I need to back out a little bit. Cool. We can actually kind of speed this up a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Because I still need to start them by hand because, again, I'm not fully certain that the positioning is totally right on these. And I want that to be right because I don't want to cross-thread anything. But also, yes, we're going to move this back a little bit so I can just get the electric screwdriver in where it needs to be. Let's not lose bits for the electric screwdriver. Away. Is that an M5? Yes, it is an M5. Okay. Let's drag this guy back. Ah, too many nuts and bolts everywhere. Alright. Again, we're still leaving a little bit of play and everything because, again, none of this is actually together yet. I think that's too long. Is that too long? Nope, that's the perfect size. Okay. Good to know. As I put more and more screws in there. Does the automatic screwdriver have a clutch? I don't know. I really don't. This is just a, cheapy electric screwdriver thing. So, although it does have a speed setting on it, kind of. I think it might be a torque setting. I don't know. Yeah, I don't actually use it that much. I got it because it was, on sale at some point, and I was like, I probably should have one of those. And then, yeah. I barely use it, mostly because a lot of the stuff that I do is screwing into plastic. And the last thing you want to do is screw into plastic with something like this because you will just strip the hole out entirely. Yeah. So, especially putting a self-tapping screw into plastic, you're just going to wreck it entirely. Ben and YOLO, bad memories of the YOLO drive. Yeah, look, putting a YOLO drive in Annie was an experiment. But here's the thing though, without that experiment of putting YOLO drive in Annie, we wouldn't have the Melty that we have today, because I learned a lot putting the YOLO drive into Annie, and yeah, through that learning, I was able to know what I could use and what I couldn't use to build the Melty. So, small victories there, I guess. Alright, let's get these. Oh, back that off a little bit. Nope. Nope, back off a little. Problem with backing off with the electric screwdriver is it backs off almost too far. So you end up with very, very loose bolts, which almost kind of negates having actually used a screwdriver on them. So, anyway, we're getting there here. I will actually pull out their Allen keys in half a second here, and I will tighten these up by hand because, yeah, again, it's not a huge electric screwdriver. It doesn't have a huge amount of torque. So I certainly don't want these tightened just to what the electric screwdriver can do. I'd prefer to have them tightened to what I can do, which is going to be better. Yes, and also, sorry for the metally, scrapey audio. You're going to get a lot of that this evening, if you hadn't guessed that already, as I throw this machine around constantly during this build process. Okay, that's good. That's why I wanted to start these by hand, is so I can, get the bars into the right spot. So the threads grab. Beautiful. Now we just need more. Lots more. Always lots more. Would it be an idea to put the thing on something flat like a piece of plastic before screwing everything in, just so it doesn't end up warped? Yeah, I mean, look, probably this table's pretty flat. It's not super, super flat, but it's pretty good. Yeah, I'm not sure I'll do it super, super tight. I don't think I'm gonna over tighten this to the point of bending anything. But yeah. The mic is doing a good job of rejecting anything not voice. Oh, cool. Okay. I mean, that I think is mostly OBS. I'm running OBS Studio to do this, and I have, a long time ago, actually, set up the noise gain filtering stuff on OBS, and OBS does seem to do a pretty good job. The other option would be a square, or using a ruler to check that it's square by measuring the corners. That's a good idea. I do have a metal ruler. Oh. Trying not to bump the microphone. So we can actually, snug this up. That does seem to be alright. Cool. As I tighten things down, I will try the square or the ruler. I do have an actual square. However, to go get that, I would need to actually leave the room. And that would mean, I don't know, a couple of minutes of nothingness, or I guess the rubber duck. I would put the stream starting soon sign back up and just leave you all for a couple of minutes as I got myself ready and found the square. But I think we'll be alright. And look, worst case scenario, if the first cuts are really, really bad and it doesn't cut a square properly, I will just rebuild it. Effectively. Alright, so we have all of our screws in now, so I'm going to snug these up with the screwdriver, to start with anyway, because, like I said, this will get them tight, but not, overly tight, and then I can finish them with the Allen key. I'll finish them off with the Allen key, and just do a slightly better job, basically. What is the cutting area on this? Theoretically, 30 centimeters by 18 centimeters. Theoretically. Because that is kind of how these things are named. They're named after their cutting space. However, you do lose a little bit of that. I don't remember the Z cut on this, the cut depth you can get on this thing. But probably not huge. And I'll show you why I think that in half a second here. Once I have zipped up all of these. Cool. So why I don't think the cut depth is massive is because of this boy. So you can see this is my cut depth, effectively. That's all of the Z travel that I've got on this machine. So let's just throw a calipers in there. That's 50 millimeters, effectively. And yeah, the bed, I think, is like 130. Actually, this is the bed here. So again, this is a 3018. So theoretically, the bed should be just as touch over 30 centimeters. Okay, the bed is exactly 30 centimeters. And again, yes, exactly 18 mil deep. So I think this is going to be my effective cut space. Probably I'm going to lose like half a centimeter, so, 5 mil around the edges and stuff based on where the spindle is and how big the spindle is and all that kind of fun stuff. So not huge, but certainly enough to cut beetle parts. Like, I should be able to cut a beetle frame out of this. Almost no worries. I cut parts of Annie off the 2812. No worries. So I feel like we should be okay. Yeah, that bed extrusion is a standard A18 by 180. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so that is the one kind of semi-standardized thing for these particular machines, is that their numbering is the indication of their bed size, which is close enough to an indication of their actual cut size. All right, so we've got part A of step 1 done. We've done the top image up here. Now we're going to do the bottom image, which includes, a part I put away. This guy. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So this block takes one of those nuts that we saw before, the little thin ones that I was like, about. But you don't bolt it in here. In fact, you put a spring behind it. And there seems to be another nut embedded in here. So I'm not sure why there's a spring and a second nut in here, but I am not going to question that. I'm just going to do it because that is what the instructions are saying. Yeah. We're just going to, run this. Now, the other thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to put the bed motor down in half a second. I have no idea how this nut is in any way captive in this block here. I would assume that you would need to bolt it in place, but apparently putting it on a spring is all you need to do. So that's what we're going to do. One little spring, one brass bit, and in there. Yeah, see, this is what I expected. I guess you need to, squish it and screw everything together, but then you've got this, anti-backlash. Okay. To ensure that one of them engage in each direction. Right, that's cool. Okay. That's also, I think, a problem that I had with my other machine, the 2018. The instructions, they gave you springs, and the instructions kind of mentioned springs, but I could never work out where they were supposed to go or what they were for, so I left them off. So the 2812, the little CNC, didn't ever have this anti-backlash feature on it. So that's cool. I'm glad that I'm, doing this on stream and learning things here. That's interesting. All right, so I'm assuming I'm going to need to thread this guy in, which... these... Is there two different sized? I hope not. Oh, well, this is the one for this, because it has to be, because it's the right size. But... actually, I probably want to, put that in through here first. Okay. Oh, no. Is that? Yes, there we go. But then, when this gets far enough out, what I want to do is I want to sit this nut Okay. We need to back that off a little bit. Right. These parts are slightly complicated to do. How am I supposed to... This is... Alright, I'm gonna... Yeah, okay. Doing this in the bed was a bad idea. Let's take this out and try and get this right. Okay, yeah. Right. There you go. So much easier to do when you're not trying to do it in situ, kind of poking away from yourself, semi-on camera. If you get the nut on far enough, you'll have enough room to put it through the holes in the bed without issue. Yes, cool. I'm so very happy about that. Isn't Backlash a featherweight though? A lightweight? I am not sure I know what robot that is. Was that I'm assuming it was was that a Robot Wars robot, or was it a other robot? Like a non-televised machine, effectively. Cool. Alright, so that is on. That's really good. I'm glad that you guys were here to explain why I was doing that, because otherwise I probably would have skipped that step. Right, we've got a stepper motor. And now we need M3x14. That has got to be these tiny little boys down here. And we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait. Yes, we've only got 8 of them. So yeah, these are the motors that hold that in. If you get enough of the nut... Yes, yeah. I've read that one already. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. I didn't actually snug up these M6 bolts, which were probably... Where did I put all of their... What are undoubtedly terrible Allen keys? Ah, there they are. I mean, good that they give all of the right sizes, I guess. Well, I hope they've given all the right sizes. I shouldn't say that before I've actually used them. I would assume... No, that's the M5s. Alright, let's snug up all these M5s. Yeah, see, there's like a quarter turn left in these after the electric drivers come through. So, always a good idea to double check that, especially when you're using a electric driver and don't know how good a torque it's got on it. These do need that. BattleBot's Nightmare but small, basically. Okay, cool. BattleBots is Backlash is a mini Nightmare. Do we have IKEA in Australia? Yes, we have IKEA. IKEA is everywhere. You can't go anywhere in the world without being near an IKEA, I basically feel like at this point. But this does kind of give IKEA vibes, hey. Also, sorry, yes, you cannot see what I'm doing because I am off screen currently. But I'm snugging up the bolts in the back because, yes. There's also that one bloody screw, yes. Yes, I did also turn the torque setting low on that screwdriver, you are correct. I can... Let's put that back up a little bit. Actually, let's see. Let's see if that is a torque setting, because I could never remember if that was a torque setting or if it was a speed setting. So I'm going to put that back up. And it snugged up these bolts before, but I'm going to throw this round, snug up these bolts again with it, and see if it's a torque setting or if it's a speed setting. Because again, I don't know. Okay, it's a torque setting. For sure. Yes, it's pulling a lot harder than it was last time we did this. But we're going to go back to... Why did I put these down? I needed them again. Yes. Giving these an extra half turn. Although, that one is actually not too bad. The one that I did up with the higher torque setting actually came out pretty okay. Yes, Adelaide only has one IKEA. That is correct. I didn't realize that other places had more IKEAs than one. It feels a little weird to me to have more than one IKEA in a place, but I can understand for bigger cities that you would need to do that, because otherwise you'd be traveling like over an hour to get to the only IKEA in your big city. But Adelaide is not a big city. Adelaide is, well, small for a city. It's big for Australia, well, medium-sized for an Australian city, but small for an international city. So, It's part of the reason I like living here. Not that many people. Alright. That is good. That's got us kind of squared up on those. Let's get these guys squared up because they definitely need it. Although I probably shouldn't tighten these too tight until I've got the bed on. I say continuing to tighten them. And I will probably eat my words in a second. We have a lot of Bunnings, though. Yes, we do have a lot of Bunnings. Which, for any Americans out there, a Bunnings is like a Lowe's or a Home Hardware. They're a hardware store. Wait, is Home Hardware American? Home Depot, that's the one I'm thinking of. Home Hardware, I think, is a thing, but I don't know if it's an American thing. Anyway, where was I? I was putting on the stepper motor. So we're going to do this way around. We're also going to get this guy out of the way because we don't need him right now. We do need a coupler, though, which I assume these the same thing. They would have to be, surely. So we'll do this. I know some European cities have multiple. Yes. Home Hardware is the dog thing. Oh, that's right. That was an Australian hardware store. Yes. Okay. Well, my bad on that one. Right. So, interesting. Let's get some bolts in here. Again, we're just gonna try and like set this up. All right, I'm gonna lift everything up because I have a feeling that the stepper, yes. Okay, so the stepper is actually lower than the bottom of the aluminium here, which is probably why they've included feet, is so that you can level everything out without having the entire CNC machine sitting on top of your stepper motor. Now also, yes, I messed this up because they, in the drawing, have it pointing to the side. I'm gonna put the cable over to the side. IKEA is the reason I just have a drawer full of 100-odd Allen keys. Yeah, fair enough. IKEA here doesn't seem to do like too many sizes of Allen keys. I think there's like 3 sizes of Allen keys that you can get from IKEA in Australia. They're like the big one, the small one, and the medium-y one. That's kind of what I've got, but I've got a ton of like, yeah, copies of all of those, which is exciting when I end up building a robot that accidentally uses Allen keys in the right IKEA sizing. I'm like, oh, I've got plenty of spare of these, so I can strip a couple of those out and I'll be fine. Because I always find that Allen keys, you round the corners of the Allen key out before you get a bolt out, especially if you've Loctited the thing in properly. Yes. We have B and Q over here in upside down Annielands. Yes. Yeah. Razor saying Australia has Bunnings, USA has Home Depot, and the UK has B and Q. Yeah, I think that's kind of accurate, really. Okay, so I've made my first goof here. So the next bot using common items is made using leftover Allen keys as weapons. That's pretty funny. I kind of like that. So here's my first goof. Here is the motor mostly in, and you can see that this motor shaft is barely out of here. And so in actual fact, we probably want to put the shaft collar on first, because I highly doubt, yeah, I'm going to need to put the shaft collar a lot further down. So I could put it out here a little bit. Sorry, you can barely see that. But that is basically to the point that the Allen key or the grub screw. Why was grub screw such a hard word? Because I hate them and I don't want to talk about them. But yes, the grub screw is basically inside this aluminum extrusion. So I kind of want to put this on the motor before I bolt the motor in, I think. Let's just very quickly, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this all the way back here so the motor is hanging off the edge of the bench. And I'm going to put this guy back on. See how much length I've got. Okay, I've got plenty of length to snug this all the way down on the motor. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull the motor back off. I'm going to put this collet on down on the motor, and I'm going to tighten that up there first, and then we're going to put the rest of this back together. Because I don't think that, yeah, getting back into this is going to be particularly easy to do, so we might as well just get it done this way first and not have this collet supporting too much, because it is a little like flexi sprung collet-y thing, so I'm going to try and not have that support the weight of the rod and have it have very little distance to the actual stepper motor shaft here. Now we should just be able to do this guy up. Grub screws led to the Apex incident. I understand why you hate them. Fun fact: all that was holding Apex bar on was 2 collets with grub screws. Yeah. I like to refer to grub screws as a necessary evil, and unfortunately, I think that's kind of what they are. There's a lot of builds that I would be like, if I could get away with not putting grub screws in here, I would absolutely do that. I would do whatever it took to do that. Well, anything within my power to do that. However, unfortunately, for a lot of things, not having grub screws means doing something like making a custom shaft for a motor that has to be pressed on in a very specific order of operations. Yeah. So, unfortunately, I don't have the tools spec'd to do that. But there we go. 1 collet on, ready to go. The learning time here is the flex coupler is to allow your stepper and your lead screw to slightly out of alignment without warping the entire machine. Oh, right. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. So I really shouldn't then snug the lead screw all the way down on the stepper motor. That's good to know. And helps with choosing what I do with this next step of assembly here. So, slightly out of focus, we're just gonna, well, slightly off the edge of the screen, I'm just gonna put these bolts back in for the stepper motor. And I might even prop this up on something, maybe on these 2040s here in half a second, so that the stepper motor isn't supporting the weight of this entire frame, and more accurately, these tiny little M3 bolts aren't supporting the weight of this entire frame. Although I guess the M3 bolts are going to be supporting the torque of the system. Wait, oh no, because the grub screw is a gearing ratio, so it's fine. These M3 bolts aren't actually going to be supporting that much torque once the machine is up and running. They'll be supporting more speed of a thing than anything else. All right, let's get this up on block and not put our fingers in the way of the linear bearings, which have proven themselves to be very free running already. Right. Okay, dokay. So I think I should snug all of this up, and then we'll bolt this in and put the bearing on the front and do all of that. There's also 2 extra, like, threaded bolt holes down here that I don't know what they do, like right next to my fingers here. I'm just going to ignore those until the instructions tell me to do something with them. Which... yeah, they seem to be ignored for the most part. Just do a quick flick through ahead here. Yep, nothing really mentioned about them, so we'll ignore them. And continue on with where we were. So I'm going to snug these bolts up before we move much further. That's going to be the wrong Allen key. It's always a slightly annoying thing when you're like, I think I've got the right one. Nope, that's the wrong one. And you only realize it as soon as you've actually got the thing to the bolt. And you're like, ah. Alright. Here we go. You made a DIY machine that is much larger. It isn't fully running, but that's because I'm not in my home country at the moment. Okay. You have to learn a lot of things. Yeah, so that's it. Making threaded holes by the motor maybe for an end stop. Ah, right. Well, I mean, yes, I know that the board here, the control board, has plugs for end stops, but I'm pretty sure that this machine does not come with end stops. So I could add end stops later if I so choose, because they're literally just micro switches. But it doesn't actually have them here. And look, I ran the littler 2018, 2812. I ran the littler 2812 without end stops kind of okay. I didn't really need them. But yes, making a thing from scratch will definitely teach you a lot about the thing. Also, I sighed because I took the motor off earlier to have the plug orient the way that they say to orient the plug, and I've messed it up, and I now need to undo that. It's now facing the top again. The hole is mirrored on the other side of the frame. Looks like it. Yeah, so there's 2 holes there, and there are 2 holes on this other side of the frame, but there's actually 4 holes here. So if I flip this all the way around, so you can see it, I'm gonna take this out so I don't break or bend this rod. You can see there's actually 4 holes there. So there are 2 holes that are mirrored and 2 holes that are for the bearing, it seems like. So, yeah. The machine I'm building is external dimensions of 1,500, 1,500, 800. Ooh, nice! That is a good sized machine. I wish I could have a machine like that, but again, I just do not have the space in my house to have a machine that big. So yeah, this little guy is going to be it for the time being. And then maybe later when I move into a place where I have an actual proper workshop and stuff, I will get a much, much bigger machine. Well, maybe not even that much bigger, maybe just twice the size of this. I've had my eye on a 6040 for a long, long time, but I kept telling myself wasn't going to buy one until I moved and had space for it. And yeah, I haven't moved, and I don't have space for it, and I have been running out of reasons not to have a CNC machine in my life. So here we are, building another small little CNC machine, and messing it up from time to time. And learning a lot about how CNC machines are constructed, as it turns out. How long have we been going for? About an hour. Okay, I was hoping to be a little bit further through this build by now, but as it turns out, I messed up the plug spacing on this motor, and I'm pulling it out for the 3rd time, which is fun. Come out of there, screw. So the problem is getting bolts back out of this is a little bit of a challenge from time to time. Backlash was mini nightmare. Yes, people. Oh wow. Okay. As a guitar player, very much understand the frustration of picking out the wrong Allen key. Yeah. Look, I think anybody who uses Allen keys, or has used any level of Allen key, knows that very specific frustration, because they have done it multiple times. It's always the way. Whereas I know that Phillips head screws, you're supposed to use the exact size Phillips head screwdriver for the Phillips head screw that you're using, but does anybody do that? Like, they're all a little bit universal in some way, and yes, I know that that's not quite right, but yeah, I've got different sizes of them, but I just grab the one that's closest to hand and it will work most of the time. Not so with Allen key stuff. So yeah. Also, actually, a little bit weird that they chose to do Allen key or like Allen screws in this and not put in Phillips head or anything. But then again, I guess getting a Phillips head screwdriver into a tight space like this could be a bit of a problem for some people. And also, providing Phillips head screwdrivers probably would have been harder than doing Allen key ones. Let's take a look. What are we saying? 2 kilowatt spindle. Whoo! Yeah, okay. That, I don't know, that feels... Yeah, I mean... Yeah. that could be interesting. See how you go with that. I mean, you can always change spindle over if you need to, I guess. That's why they invented the posi drive. Yes. And Allen keys, yeah, Allen keys kind of do until you've got tiny little Allen key drivers that are made of, mild steel, and they round out the second you put any level of actual torque on them. Or again, you have Loctited something in place and you're using a tiny, tiny little Allen key, and yeah, you just strip the actual Allen key out because the Loctite wins that fight of Allen key versus Loctite, unfortunately. I've had that happen one too many times. And yes, sometimes that is because I have made the error of not heating up my Loctite to loosen it before putting the Allen key in, and sometimes it's because the Loctite wins anyway. Alright, that is much better. When it comes to changing spindles, I'm a fellow Adelaidean, so getting machinery parts is always fun. Yeah. I was saying this earlier in the stream about how getting parts here in Australia, not fun, especially in Adelaide, actually. Because Adelaide, while we are a port city, and we do have a port here, we're not like a major shipping port. Things come through Sydney or Melbourne, sometimes through Perth, but not really through Adelaide necessarily, which means that, a thing comes in, goes through customs in like Sydney or Melbourne, and then comes to Adelaide, which usually adds another couple of weeks to a wait for stuff, especially for things that are coming by snail mail, like actual through the AusPost system. This came, I think, via DHL, or maybe it was FedEx, one of those. It was a faster courier company, so it actually came in a decent amount of time. Alright, we're putting the bearing on the front here. Rack and pinion bolt came from Melbourne. Yeah. Getting it anywhere else is 4 times the price. Yep. Now I want to make a spinner breaker and call it Loctite. Yes! Do it. That'd be great. Alright, we wanted M5x10s. Do I have M5x10s? I've got M5x16s. That's what these boys are. I have M5 by a lot longer than that. I might just throw in the M5 by... Oh, here we go. I think these are the M5 by 10s, maybe? Yep, that's an M5 by 10. Alright. Let's actually use the right screw and not just put in a screw that I feel like putting in. Mostly because I feel like this place is not going to have given me extra screws, so I'm probably going to run out of screws if I don't do this correctly. Was what I'm doing on camera? No, it's not. Okay. Let's do this on camera then, shall we? I mean, this is... The interesting thing is I need to see what I'm doing and the camera's all the way over there. So I can kind of just have to, like, do things at awkward angles a little bit to get this to work. Huh, okay. That's interesting. That's why that didn't work, is because it was resting on the, this block here. At least Adelaide is closer to other major cities compared to Perth. Yeah, this is true. I mean, it's kind of like, still like 3 hours to get to Adelaide from Perth. But then again, yeah, if you wanted to go from Perth to like Melbourne, it's a much, much longer flight for you than it is for me. So, why are you fouling? Okay, let's back this screw out a little bit. See if we can get this to... Yeah, there we go. Okay. These are a little bit... Something's not quite right here. I think it's this... Because they're just like these like bearings that come in this like cast aluminium or cast iron thing. So I think the bolt hole size isn't quite right for that. And so that's causing the screw to not go through that as nicely as it should do. And now I can't find my M5 Allen key. Of course I can't find my M5 Allen. Oh no, that's the one. Okay. I was thinking that this was too big, but it's the right size. Which means I can't find my M6 Allen key. It'll be around here somewhere. It's got to be on the bench. Yes, yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, Perth does still get things faster than Adelaide because I mean it is also like it is itself a port city, and it does get major shipments in there. And again, yeah, some things will just like fly into Melbourne then fly straight over to Perth, whereas they'll often like fly into Melbourne then like truck them to Adelaide, which does definitely eat some time up. All right, so I was going to snug this up a little bit and then back it off to allow for that coupling to do its job. And then we're going to bolt this down as best we can. Cool. All right. Done and done. All right. Japan does have robots fighting, but it isn't the same style. Yeah, so I think a lot of the like sumo bots and stuff you see come out of Japan, I think. I haven't really like looked too deep into those, but I thought that a lot of that type of stuff was coming out of Japan. Yeah, it would be cool to see that. And I think they also I think Japan also has the like mech style, so they're like stand-up robots that use a lot of servos to walk around, and they do like robot wrestling almost. There was a guy here in Adelaide who was trying to start a league like that. I don't know what happened to that league in the end. I was kind of interested in building something like that at one point. But yeah, I know that I think that is being done in Japan as well, but honestly, I'm not an authority on this. I don't really know. I haven't really looked into the Japanese scene that much. Yes. Little Gundam looking things. Yeah, cool. So somebody else had seen the little Gundam things. Yeah. They're really cool. I love them to bits. And like I said, I was looking at building something like that at some point. But yeah, building our style of combat robots, the wheeled, flippy, wedgy, spinny ones, has taken up most of my time, so I didn't end up actually building one of those. I should at some point. They are very cool. Yeah. Oh no, they're not like 1200 libs. They're like tiny. They're like this big. Hang on. Where am I? They're like this big. And they run off like 9-gram servos, basically. But just a lot of them. Like, they've got hip joints, knee joints, and foot joints, and then the same with the arms. You've got like wrist and elbow and shoulder joints, and they can do things like, you know, they get knocked down and they'll like stand themselves back up and that kind of cool stuff. Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's the sumos is the ones that have like just a ton of downforce in magnets, and they just like they don't look like they're obeying physics because they just have so much magnetic downforce that they are able to do whatever they like realistically. Okay. So I think we are here. Also, yeah, I should have read the instructions because there is a note right at the bottom in red here, which this camera is just not going to focus on. But this note, and I will literally quote it, it says, install the coupling on the stepper motor and then affix the stepper motor. So if I had just listened to my instructions, I would have saved some time there. I really should have done that. Whoops. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is the table assembly. So, right, yeah, so they say to flip this over, and we're going to need to align this boy. Yeah. All right, let's get that underway. But first, we're going to need to find M5 nuts, 16 by 16. Right, so those are going to be square nuts. That's going to be around here somewhere. Okay, I think these are actually like fixture plates. Right, so we're gonna put those away because I think those are fixture plates. Yeah. Let's take a look. No, there are ones that are 1200 libs that were designed by Mark Satrakian for some cancelled show. Oh, yeah, that's an American thing. That's not a Japanese thing. The Japanese do that type of fighting, but in miniature, effectively. And yes, the ones that were designed by Mark Satrakian were massive, and they were twin-piloted, and they had, like, a hydraulic line behind them, and they were crazy. They were very, very cool, but yeah, no, that show got cancelled because it was very, very expensive, and the robots kept breaking down. As far as I recall, anyway. Although I could be talking shit here, because it has been a very long time since I saw that show, or even really thought about it, because again, it didn't last very long. Yeah. So, alright, this is going to be interesting, because we need to just, like, load this up. So we've got 4 on this one. Then we're going to have to try and line these up somehow. Don't know how I'm going to do that. I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Need to do 4 here. And then 6 on the next one. And 4 again. Yes. Yeah. So Russell's talking about the same thing that I'm talking about. With the robots like stand themselves up. And then Zimbyborm is talking about Megabots, which was the other like giant mecha fighting robots. So the Mark Satrakian one had 2 pilots that were controlled remotely. So they had a like umbilical cord of hydraulics running into their stand-uppy, punchy robots, but they were controlled from off-site, like, well, from off-robot, effectively. They had, like, one person in a little, like, gunner's seat and the other person in a, like, I think having some other controller to, like, walk them along. And then, yeah, the other one, the really, really big one where the people are inside, that's Megabots, who, like, kind of went defunct, I think. Because, yeah, they hyped up their massive, massive show, and then their massive show was overly edited and, like, faked a little bit, and, yeah, just not what people wanted to see. And then when they caved and did live shows, the fights were slow. Because, of course they were, because they're giant machines that have to move around all over the place. Yeah, and the tech really isn't there at the moment to have, like, you know, actual Gundams fighting each other, which is effectively what they were trying to market themselves as, which is unfortunate, because I think with what they had, you could have done a lot of stuff. I just think they kind of didn't handle their marketing particularly well. Which, yeah, again, slightly unfortunate. It would have been cool to see something like that take off. Would have been interesting to see if any of the BattleBots teams, like, jumped over to building giant fighting robots. I would have been, yeah, like I said, very interesting to see if anybody would have done that. Yes, under the stepper, I think you're nuts. Yep, we got that. We're in here. They said they do say real men don't read instructions. If you have the space, your other option may be to thread them into the screw loosely, then slide the entire base on. Oh, yeah, that would be a good call. Yeah. I mean, I have, like, this much finessing room, effectively. I could probably swing it. I would just need to clean a little bit. So I think I'm going to try this first, and see if I can poke them around with a screwdriver and an Allen key. And if this doesn't work, then I'll go for the finessing option. Or do I? Maybe I just do this immediately, because I'm kind of feeling like this is going to be a real pain in the butt to do. Yeah, alright. What we're going to do, we're going to say F this noise and try the other option first. So, first of all, though, I'm going to have to, like, move this guy along, get this into the middle of these. Yes, Russell is completely on the ball. I need to get my lead screw nut in line with everything else. Here we go. We're on the move. I probably actually could have just put the hand screw on the back here and got that in place already, but instead we're doing it the hard way because apparently that's how I'm doing everything this evening. Somebody saying, ah, yes, building a instead of building a $10,000 machine, you're building a $100,000 machine. Yeah, I think that was the other problem with Megabots, is that there were some expensive machines that they were putting together, which again, kind of understandable when you're building like a 10,000, like a couple of ton machine, like, well, I think even bigger than that, really. They were incredibly massive builds. So, you know, just the raw material going into that, let alone any of the build cost of like the engineering time cost of those were just insanity. Well, a cool form of insanity though, I feel. Like, again, I'm ragging a little on Megabots, but I really liked what they were trying to do. I really, really wish I'd been able to be in the States and see them do their thing once, because, yeah, it was very cool. Like, very, very cool. Alright. Let's get these on. And yeah, I think Russell had, I think it, yeah, I think this is going to be easier to slide everything on this way, as long as I get all of these nuts on around the right way and can line them up easily enough. I think we'll be okay. And again, we're just not even going to tighten these on. I'm just, like, they've got a lot of wiggle room in them so that we can do that. Is there a backlatch adjustment on the nut? Yes, yeah, that is in here. That's already been done. We talked about that because I didn't know what that was for. And I was very kindly informed by some of you out there that that was what that was and that it was very needed. So yes, again, there wasn't one of those, well, they did come on the smaller CNC I had, but I didn't put them in because the instructions were not in English and I didn't have a chat to help me out, so I didn't know what they were for, and I couldn't really get them to work, so I just didn't include them. And that may have actually been part of that little machine's problem. Possibly. I mean, there was a lot of problems with that little machine, up to and including the fact that it did not have a proper collet on it at all. It just had a little, like, brass bushing connector thing, which was absolute garbage, and broke immediately the first time that I hit it into something, which was very annoying, because mistakes happen, and, you know, crashing your machine happens, and so the machine should be at least allowed able to survive that a little bit. And yeah, no, that machine did not. It broke in a lot of ways when I did that, so I'm going to try and be more careful with this one for sure, but also feeling the build quality of this thing, I'm more sure it's going to survive rougher treatment than the last one did. So, alright, let's get these guys out of here. Right. I mean, I probably should have just done it this way from the jump. Sliding is easier than working out how to get them to align. Yeah, I think you're right on that. Now that I'm doing it this way, I'm like, feels like it's just gonna be easier. Although getting each of these nuts to align here is gonna be bad enough, I think. Yeah, so trying to do this the other way probably would have been quite the nightmare, I would assume. Backlash will kill tools and accuracies. 6.5 hours later, it broke. Well, I hope not, because 6.5 hours from now is what, 5 a.m.? Yeah, I'm not going to be working on the CNC machine at 5 a.m. In fact, I think as mentioned slightly earlier in this video, we're not even going to get, like, we might power the machine up tonight, but we're not going to get our first cut out tonight, because, again, it's late. But also, I don't want to have to go through the process of, like, catting something up, or, like, camming something up. Sorry, cam is the word I was looking for. I don't want to have to go through the camming process for this machine, live on cam, well, on stream here, because, yeah, I think that's just going to be me staring at a screen for a little while, especially as I'm not installing the software for running cam on the machine that I'm streaming off of right now. It will be on a completely different machine, so you won't be able to see anything. You would just see me sitting here on a computer tapping away. And also, I don't want to run a CNC machine in this particular room. There's a lot of things in this room that will get affected by CNC dust and gumph. So yeah, no. we're not gonna do that one. And I will do my first cuts of this off camera. Well, off live stream. They will probably be on camera, and I will probably make a video about this machine a little while later, like in, you know, a couple of months or so. Once I've done some cuts with it, I've made some beta weights with it, and I can then sit down and do a like semi-review video, I guess. I'm not really sure what that video would be really, but it, you know, it might be a case of this is why you need a little CNC machine, because sometimes that's handy. And I mean, I made videos about the other CNC machine I had because I learnt a lot from having that machine about what I wanted and didn't want in a CNC. So I put those videos out to hopefully, you know, help people buying their own CNC machine to avoid the mistake that I did. Well, that I made, that I didn't avoid. Yes, alright, we're almost done here. Got 2 more nuts to go on, and then we've got to slide the bed in place, which is going to be an interesting process, but we're going to go through it together. What are we saying? You only need to align 3 of them at once. Oh, you don't want to wake your neighbors at 1 a.m. and have the cops knocking on your door. Yeah, no, we don't want to do that. Somebody's saying camming on cam. Yes. But no, actually. Just poke the nuts around. Yeah, I could have done, but I felt like that was just going to be annoying to do more than anything else. And yeah. Russell in chat here suggested trying this method, and I think it's a good idea. So that's what we're doing. We're trying this method. And look, if this goes wrong, we'll undo some of the nuts and we'll poke them around. But I have a feeling this is going to be slightly easier than what I was trying to do. Let's see. Cheap CNC straight out of China, is it worth it? Maybe. Nick, yes, I'm looking to mostly cut HDPE. That is, Furiosa is correct on that one. I'm, yeah, mostly going to do HDPE. I might mess around with some aluminium later on, if I can get the HDPE working well enough. But that is going to be a later on thing. Now, how do I do this part? Slides it over. Yes, yeah. So I'm just going to try and do 3 at once. Okay. And then, yeah, I need to kind of like align them and lever them. Okay. This is going to be interesting because I kind of need to poke them up from the bottom to get them clearance to get into the channel. Right. So let's see if we can just kind of like do 1 at a time almost. Oh, yeah. Okay. These are... They have enough clearance on them that I can poke them 1 at a time. That's handy, alright. That, however, may not be a winning strategy moving forwards. I might have to find another way. Also, sorry if you can't hear me, I am leaning over far so that I can, like, look into the underside of this and get everything lined up. Okay. That actually worked out pretty well. Most of the way I've done it is the same way. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm glad then that I'm doing it a way that is what other people have done in the past. That is good. Alright, so let's get this guy in. Come on. Yeah. Right, there's that. And then the next one. There's that. All right, here we go. Yes, this was the way to do it. You guys absolutely had that on point here. Yeah, doing it a different way to this probably would have been a massive, massive pain. But I'm glad I didn't try. But also, I would have tried the other way without you because the instructions show sitting this thing upside down. And yeah, aligning all of the nuts where they need to be, and then flipping the whole build over and trying to like get them all lined up that way. Yeah, it's going really well. I've literally got 3 to go. I am amazed by this. I was thinking this process was going to take a lot longer than this, as I was like trying to poke nuts around inside the bed frame with the like Allen keys and stuff to get them all lined up. I was not looking forward to that process. This has been real nice. Yeah. Yes, if you do need to line up nuts that are on a loose track, Allen keys are your friend. I can definitely see that being the case. But yeah, so the only thing I'll say about this method, which I'm not sure if it's coming across, literally what I've had to do is I've had to like lift up all 3 so they've got clearance and then slide the bed across to line up the nuts. Just kind of like lifting and positioning. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's way, way better than anything else I was going to try. Okay, so that is now the bed in place. Now, this is interesting. The bed is wider than this gap, and also, like, there's a lot of twist in here. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Nick asking for a recommendation for a budget radio controller. Yes, the FSI6 is the only budget radio that I would recommend. Because they're pretty decent for what they are. They're about $50. You can usually get them for about $50. Yeah, and they're powerful enough to get you started. And I mean, admittedly, I still use my FSI6s to this day. There are certain robots that I just run them for because they're easy to run. And once you've got them set up, you're totally fine. And speaking of, there are videos on my channel already about setting them up for robot combat. So that's a thing that you can absolutely do. Also, the FSI6 have tiny little receivers that you can buy that aren't that expensive to put into ant weights and things to make your life so much easier than having to try and fit a giant radio receiver into your ant weight. Because don't do that. It makes life very, very difficult. All right. The next thing I'm going to try and do is get this bed tightened down, and hopefully we can get this tightened down in such a way that it's mostly straight. I don't really know how I'm going to attempt that or do that. I think I'm just going to snug everything down, and if it's not quite straight, I will fix it later. Because, yes. I do still need to turn the whole thing over to tighten it. Yes, correct. Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay, tighten a couple of the bolts hanging over the edge. That's a great idea. Okay, yes. And yes, you can see too, Razer saying that FSI6, again, FSI6, I think it's probably a fairly universal experience in the robot combat community to start with an FSI6. At this point, anyway. I mean, I'm sure that there are people who've been around for, 10 plus, 20 plus years when the FSI6 didn't exist, but anybody getting into it off the reboot of BattleBots has probably started with an FSI6, I reckon. I mean, okay, probably not all of them, but a good percentage, I would say. Right, so there's a nut under there. This is going to be interesting to do. Where is the right Allen key for these? Probably this guy. Also, actually, probably the electric screwdriver is set up for this right now. Also, yes, you can't really see what I'm doing because it's off the table. But I'll get the shot set up again in half a second. I'm just trying to line things up and square things up and screw a couple of screws in tight so I can flip this over have no issues with it. Trying to get the bed about centered here and try and get it somewhat square, because it does seem like it's going to be able to shift around a little bit, which I'm not sure I like particularly much, but I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if the bed itself is square as long as it's square this way. Oh, you can't really see what I'm doing. As long as it's square this way with the spindle, it should be fine. Although it will be a pain to not be able to like square a piece of stock off the edge of the bed. Huh. Got a little nick in the bed. There you go. Flaming Arrow saying hi again. What is happening right now? What is happening right now is we are screwing the bed on the new CNC machine. I am just getting there. I put a couple of nuts in. I am tightening a couple of the bolts up underneath, and I'm going to flip it over onto its face, and I'm going to do the rest of them up. But for now, you really don't get a good indication of exactly what I'm doing because it's off the edge of the table right now, which was actually a recommendation from Russell in chat, and it was a very, very good recommendation because it's going to mean that I can flip this over without fear of losing all of the hard work that I've just put in to getting it to this point. Okay. We are pretty snugged up. And yes, I'm building a Chinese CNC router because it is about the biggest size that I can fit in my house currently. So I'm going to get rid of these. Also, I'm curious, what do people prefer, mode 1 or mode 2? Now, I can't remember the actual number, but I know that I am weird in that I always do left stick drive, right stick weapon. And I know that that is not a lot of people's cup of tea. I know that a lot of people do right stick drive, left stick weapon. But personally, I play a lot of video games. I grew up playing video games, especially like Mario Kart and things. And so left stick is always control movement in that type of thing. So when I was setting up a radio controller for the first time, I basically defaulted to setting it up like a Mario Kart controller, and that means left stick drive for me. And then right stick being weapons and all of that kind of fun stuff. But again, I know that that is not everybody's cup of tea. And look, I honestly feel like it doesn't really matter as long as you're comfortable with your controller in your hand. Whichever mode you feel like is the mode you should be using. And on a lot of modern controllers, it doesn't matter because you can open them up and change the springs, and you can change the firmware to be whatever mode you like. Even on the FSI 6s, you can choose the mode in the controller. All you need to do is have the stick sprung correctly, which I think you can do pretty easily. I've never tried, to be honest, but I'm sure it's an easy enough thing to do with all of those. Can you move the bed to one of the extremes so everything lines up with the frame? I can do it manually, yeah. And that will be for tramming everything in, which I think for now I'm not really going to worry too much about. I want to get some first cuts off of this, see how it goes, and then if everything's really, really bad, then I'll go in and like tram things a little bit better. But, you know, it is a cheap CNC machine. I'm not expecting stellar quality out of this. Like, I'm not about to get a bloody micrometer out and measure parts with a micrometer. As long as they fit together okay, then I'll be pretty happy with that. So yeah, and the bed being slightly skewed, while it will be a little bit annoying for lining parts up to get cut, I think we'll be okay in the long run. Or at least will be a thing that I'm not too worried about. I could fix that later if I so choose. Where are we? Yes, left stick drive, right stick weapon is video setup. Oh, okay. Oh, right, yeah. So I should have trammed this before I screwed it down. Hey. All right, well, let's just... I mean, the other thing, too, is I can't really square it up because if we move this to one edge, it shouldn't collide with stuff on the edge. Actually, where did... There was... Yes, here we go. I've got some thumb screws. We're going to put the thumb screws on. Yeah, we're going to put a thumb screw on. And yeah, look, honestly, it's not that hard to loosen those up a little bit. There is a grub screw in there. Is that the right thread for the grub screw? All black part with an all black grub screw makes life a little bit difficult. Yeah, okay. Cool. So let's get the thumb screw on so that I can actually turn this bed thread a little bit easier. Right stick drive for me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen people change the sticks over on a Fly Sky. But again, I just buy them in the mode that I like them. And when I'm setting up loan bots and things, I set up the same style that I'm used to because, again, it is that kind of video game controller style. And I feel like, especially new people that are coming in like now, if they're especially younger people, then they will have some level of video game experience, and that will just, yeah, it will just work for them a little bit better. All right, I'm gonna do this very, very unscientifically here, because again, I don't have any real collision. You know, it's not too bad. I mean, it's a little out of square. Like, it would be the tiniest little shift, like 1 degree maybe out of square. But on the whole, I'm actually pretty happy with that for the fact that I haven't manually lined this up properly. Like, I didn't sit it all the way down to an edge and keep going to the bearings hit. Ah, okay. Yeah, all right. Well, this is going a lot further than I thought it was going to go. Okay, there we go. Bearings have hit. Okay, yeah, so I mean, it's hard to see, but this guy is probably 0.5 mil off, whereas this guy's touching entirely. So that's probably our, yeah. So we need to re-snug these and just kind of like, yeah, undo this a little bit and just shimmy until both of them touch, and then we'll be okay. Yeah. I've seen a bunch of stuff with the army using Xbox controllers and things now because a lot of the people that are going through are gamers and so have experience with a controller. So why not use a control scheme that is familiar to them and just run with that rather than having to spend thousands of hours and dollars on training somebody on a new control scheme. Yes. So Rattlesnake here saying that, yes, throttle and aileron steering on the right stick when I fly, so set it up like that. Yeah, I have seen that as well. Like, I know that is how, like, model aeroplanes work, and so people who have come from the model aeroplane space will set their sticks up like that. And I fully get that. Like, again, if that's the system that you're used to, that makes sense to keep... Wait, which way am I going with these? It makes sense to keep using a system that you're used to, but I didn't fly model airplanes before I got into combat robots, and the only thing I had was this, was the fact that I played a lot of Mario Kart as a kid, so I set up for what I knew and just ran with that. Alright, let's loosen these boys off a little bit, and... Now, I wonder if can we just like, how do we scooch this a little bit? Do I just keep pushing it? Oh, I need to loosen that one off. Hey, okay. I needed to loosen off the one that was touching, not the one that wasn't touching, so that I could get movement. That would have been the smart idea, Ben. But, you know, here we are. Russell trying to reach for the screen to assist. Yeah. Sorry, Russell, if this is frustrating for you. Thank you though for all of your help. That has been very, very useful this evening. I'm sure this build would have gone very differently without you in chat helping out here. Yeah, definitely been a font of knowledge this evening, so it's helped out a lot. Now. Okay, we might need to loosen these guys back off a touch. Yeah, these have all tightened up a little bit. Loosen them all back off a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Snug. Now let's just loosen these guys off as well. Make sure that that's all okay. Ah, that's why I wasn't getting movement. I had 1, 2 at the back, still slightly tightened. There we go. Okay. Right, I think that just about does it, or at least I hope it does. It seems to be fairly squared up. May also need to loosen the nut screws. Alright, well, we'll give that a shot as well. Oh, okay, yes, there was twist in that, because the second I loosened the second bolt here, I immediately got just a little bit of flex out of it, so I think that was actually one of our issues. Right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tighten this up, and I'm going to bolt these down, and then I'm going to loosen it and bolt the thread down, I think, because at the moment, tightening that up... Okay, yeah, we've got slot back in here again. How do I square this? Because, yeah, with everything loose, I'm just kind of back to the, like, I can mess around with this and do whatever I need to do. You need to loosen everything. It's all super long, so lots of distance between the bolts. You don't want to stress it when it's done up. Yeah. Tighten the nut all the way down. Right, so the nut on the lead screw, and then tighten the rails. Okay, yeah, sure. Right, let's do that. Let's get this in. Now I'm going to do this kind of carefully. Make sure that that kind of locks in. There is a little bit of play in these, and I'm not like super happy. Wait, tighten the lead screw down, then tighten the rails, then loosen the lead screw and tighten the nut. What do you mean by tighten the lead screw then? Alright. Leave the nut to the bed loose. Okay. I can do that. Lead screw to square the bed to the rails. Okay. I am a little bit confused as to... Rotate lead screw. Okay, we can do that. Right, okay. Lead screw is now tight. That is tight. And then, yeah, tighten up the thumb screw to pull the rail in. Right, okay, I see. So now that this is tight and pulling on that, and I think fairly square, I'm just gonna double check all my bolts are loose so that this can move. Ah, you boys. Loosen up, yes. Right. Okay. It's going to go around double checking all of this so that everything can wobble and be as loose as it needs to be to square everything up. Yes, yeah, no, so the nut screws are loose. They are really loose right now. So much so, in fact, that by tightening the lead screw down like that, it's kind of shifted everything. Which is good. That's what we want. We want to tram this up, square it up. All right, that is the lead screw tightened down. And then we're going to tighten down these guys, and then we're going to undo the lead screw, tighten down the nut. Okay, I think we're good, right? I think that's it. Turn the lead screw to the rotator, things are tight. Then do the rails. Yeah. Then loosen the lead screw and tighten the nut. Okay, cool. I think we're here. I think we're at the point now. So let's tighten up the rails. Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you all. I got there. Got there in the end. It took a second, but we're here now. So we should be fairly well trammed in. Well, as good as we can be by slamming parts of the machine into itself, I guess. But yes, definitely better than by just doing it by eye as we were doing earlier. All right. Almost there. A couple more bolts, and then we'll back the lead screw out and tighten the nut down, and that should be that. Took a couple of retries. Percussive alignment. I like that. That was oddly fun to watch. Ah, there you go. I'm glad that it was. All right, and now loosen the lead screw up. Ah, okay. So we can slide back and forth now, but we cannot twist the bed anymore. Good. I think this is what we wanted to see. We haven't got the hammer out yet. Yeah. That's the real percussive maintenance when we get to the hammer point. We haven't quite got there yet, but I'm hoping we don't have to. I'm hoping that this machine doesn't need to be malleted into square. That would be nice. All right. There we go. That's our nut tightened down. Oh yeah, that's looking so much better. Okay. Good. All right, let's flick this boy back over. And I think we are pretty happy now. Let's do this all the way back a little bit and just check. Square along the front. You know, I'm pretty happy with that. That's looking really good. Yes, yeah, Russell, I got that. I moved it until it was roughly centered and locked it down. I think that's pretty good. You imagine try 1,000 things and you finally have to align it. Yeah. Square edge is very useful for machining. Again, I do have one. I just did not bring it into this room this evening. It is out where my 3D printers are, which I would need to wander away for like a couple of minutes to go and get it. So we're just gonna soldier on without the square for the moment. All right, now that we've got that, yes. Singing songs about hitting things with hammers. I love it. All right, so that is the base now completed. According to our destructions here, we are completed on the base. So we're about to do the uprights, which I'm assuming we're going to have to do some fun kind of like tramming thing here as well, possibly. Interesting. Okay. Cool. So we're going to start the way they suggest we start with this side of the machine. And an upright, and of course, oh, M5 by 25mm bolts. That's got to be these boys. gotta be. There's nothing else around here long enough to fit that description, I don't think. I mean, having an edge that's aligned to the axis. Yes, yes. No, that would be very nice. To have edges properly aligned to axes, which I think we've done now. Like, this is feeling pretty good. Yes, I am just doing it by feel here, but it does actually feel pretty squared up. So I like that. We're going to keep running with that. Also, I'm going to put this machine back up on blocks again so that we're not running the stepper into the ground. Did it tell me to put the feet on? It didn't tell me to put the feet on. I feel like I should be putting the feet on. Just so that I don't have to... Wait a second. Oh, okay, no, it's got T-nuts. It's not got square nuts for the feet. That should be okay. We should be fine. Come on. Up you come. There we go. I mean, I'm going to need these parts in a second when we make the uprights. Your uprights just square to the side rails, which should be easier. Cool, I like that. Yeah, don't want to have to do... Yes, and yes, those blocks are my side rails. No, so these blocks are the gantry. I think that's the term. These are my side rails. These go out here and then hold up these pieces that I'm using as blocks currently. But these are the ones that I've got pockets in, so I need to make sure that the pockets go in the right spots. Although I don't know why there's a pocket down here and not a matching feature on this particular, on the other side. Getting your ways orthogonal is very important. Yes. Yeah, I mean, look, I may have to redo the bed, but I think at this point in time, I'm happy to just kind of leave it as is, get this machine more going, and then I will mess around with it off stream if I feel like it needs a little bit more work done to it. Because, look, I mean, we've been streaming for 2 hours already, and we haven't even got to the uprights yet, so... I'm happy to mess around and spend more hours tramming things up and getting things orthogonal off stream, but I do kind of want to get the bulk of the build done here and now. Yes, it's probably going to be easier to tram it up now, but again, it's also 11:30 at night, so fine-tuning adjustments, yeah. Now, I want to double-check. Right. This is interesting. These pictures show using this side rail this way. So this has got a little indent, recess, and a hole in it, but this is not shown on these images at all. But it does show that this piece goes there, with this hole there, and the round corner there. So I guess that's what we're going to do next, basically. Oh, cable run. Yes, it could be a cable run for that particular axis. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yes, yeah. I do definitely need. Yes, it is balmy these things fit on a desktop, but that is exactly why I bought a machine this size, so I don't have to have a desk for it. It can just fit mostly on a desktop. Yeah. All right. Now, again, we're going to get our long bolts out, because these are our long bolts, I think. Yep. We're going to do these slowly. Stream is amazing. Look into getting one of these. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I'm, like, showing this off, I guess, is because, I mean, I was going to build it anyway, so might as well build it while also showing you what's going on. So that if you want to do something like this yourself, you get more of an idea. And, you know, you get to join in the experience and see all of the pitfalls that I'm falling into and being helped out by people in chat. Yeah. Yes. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Talking about future stuff. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, like I said, I am not expecting huge things out of this machine. Like, if it cuts a part that's mostly square, I'll be pretty happy with that. At least to start with. And look, I know that I don't know a lot about machining. I know that I don't know a lot about CNCing. So when a part doesn't come out square, I'm going to assume it's my fault, and I will start looking for YouTube videos on how to improve machines and, you know, what you need to do to, like, get something square off of a machine. Like, that's something that I would 100% do. So, you've got a 1000 by 1000 that folds up right inside a standard garage racking unit. Oh, okay. The AliExpress listing I saw didn't seem to have that hole either. Yeah, I don't know what that... Yeah, I think it might be a cable hole, but who knows. Again, I think I mentioned this earlier. When you buy something from AliExpress, somebody can buy the same thing a month later and get a very different thing with new weird holes in it that you have never seen before, and none of you know what it's for because they've just decided that they're changing things up. Also, I'm going to stand up now. You're going to get a bit of tummy in the face cam for a second, but that's going to be easiest for me to line up screw holes. Oh, so much easier. Okay, now this is interesting. These screw holes are a little bit big. There is some play in this already. So these are probably like 5.5mm bolt holes, I would say. So squaring this up is actually a thing that we're going to need to do, I think. Which is a little bit annoying, to be honest. Like, they could have just made these exactly 5mm bolt holes, but they didn't. But I guess it does mean that you can square them. So... it's flat to the edge of the rail. Close. I think, oh, actually, yeah, if I just push it up a little bit, it flattens to the edge of the rail. So all I need to do is make sure that I push up as I tighten it. Likely they've done the industry, so there's an industry standard for clearance hole. Yeah, some company made one that runs wires specifically for side mounting. Oh, interesting. Try to hold your gantry extrusion on... Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I can literally just, like, set it down here. Yeah, so that flattens off. I can actually even... All I need to do is do this and just... Yeah, cool. So we've got more than enough weight of the machine on the table that it supports itself. And now that piece will sit down where it needs to sit. We can do this up. Now, I was going to say I'll leave some of these kind of loose until I've got the other side on, but what I'm thinking is if I tighten all of this up, I can then just tighten the other side to be in line with this. I think that should work. I don't know. Might be making stuff up again. And I might about to be told in chat that I am wrong on that and I should leave these loose. If they made it exact, you couldn't adjust it when it's wrong and everything is always wrong. Yeah, that's a fair point, I would say. Yes. It does give you space to adjust it and make it snug up nicely for whatever. And I mean, yes. I do understand that with all manufacturing processes, there are tolerances and all of that kind of stuff, and you need to make sure that something that's in the low end of tolerance and something that's in the high end of tolerance still mesh together and square up and line up and all that kind of fun stuff. So, yeah, I guess clearance holes is the way to go. Likely worth tightening it up, but it may be worth not talking it down until you have the gantry rails in as well. Okay, I've got it tightened. I could back it out fairly easily, so I think we'll be okay to put this in as is. Guess it's also part of the poor reputation for these people setting them up wrong. Honestly, probably. I mean, look, without, especially Russell in chat here tonight, I definitely would have set this up wrong at least the first time. I probably would have got a couple of bad cuts off of it, gone, I wonder what I've done wrong, and look for some stuff on YouTube. I don't know what is on YouTube about these machines currently. That would have been a learning experience for sure. But yeah, I would have assumed that I'd done something wrong in setup. Maybe. Okay. So, now we are looking like, yeah, I love this. Step 4 is just put on the whole axis, basically. This instruction book really is no IKEA instruction book. Okay, so we need these rails now because this is where they go on. And we need, of course, our good old friend, the M5 by 16mm bolt. These guys. This is where these go in. I'd probably tighten that top rail first before the side. Step 4, assemble the CNC. Yes. This instruction book definitely belongs on the... There's a subreddit, Rest of the Owl, which, yes, this set of instructions definitely feels like it belongs there, because a lot of that is kind of the way this goes. Where's my line? There's my line. Okay, there we go. Right. Now, I think, yes. So, these back rails are, Rest of the Owl. Yes, that's the one. IKEA dreams to have instructions this poor. So, these back rails don't seem to have... Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You can't see what I'm doing right now. Yes, these back rails are only structural, as Russell is saying, so I don't need to worry too much about them. I'm going to angle the camera because you cannot see what I'm doing, and it's probably going to be work here for the time being. So, half a second when we get a camera set up that works. Let's go down a little bit. There we go, that should be about right. See a bit of my messy floor behind me with various things on it, but that's fine. Yeah, so these don't need to be too trammed up or squared or anything. Even proper lathes and mills need a lot of finessing from factory, ship condition. Yeah, I can understand that, especially... Sorry, I'll bring the microphone back over so you can hear what I'm saying. Yeah, I do understand that. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate in some ways, I think, that machines need that much work, but also, I get it. When you're shipping something, things move, and when you're talking about, like, sub-millimeter tolerances on parts, you always need to do extra work on a machine to get down to that. Yeah, I get that. I'm just also, not really in the game to be doing sub-millimeter tolerances on things. That's... If it's within a millimeter, it should be fine to lock together and make a beta weight out of. At least for the stuff that I do, anyway. So, we've got a new stepper motor, which this time we are actually going to follow the instructions and bolt the flexible collet on first, coupling on first, which they do tell you to do before we put the motor in. Now, does it actually have... Yes, so this is pointing towards the back this time. So we'll do it right the first time round with this motor, having learnt our lesson from the base plates. wild to do things right the first time round. Now, we've got another backlash nut that goes into the Z-axis. Okay. I can hack that for sure. Now, before I put this in, I need to find where the bolts are that hold this down. There we go. The issue you need to make sure that both uprights are square to the bottom edge, but also pull it towards the back of the machine so that you don't have a front to back twist. Okay, yeah, okay, I think I can do that. Yeah. I mean, this is basically telling me to put in everything in this top rail now. So we're going to set everything up in the top rail, and then we're going to scooch this round sideways so this is hanging off the edge. This is tight now, so that should be fine. And then we're going to put this other side on with it over the table so it squares up on there. And then, yes, I guess, yeah, pull back as we tighten to kind of tram everything up a little bit. Yeah. First aid page of the manual are the tutorial levels. I think you're right on that. And look, yeah, this whole process would have been very different if it wasn't for you guys here. Okay. That's really annoying. So yes, we're going to do the motor correctly, but to do the motor correctly, I'm actually going to stop and I'm going to undo the work I have literally just done. That's the wrong Allen key. That's the right Allen key. Because this gets in the way of putting the bolt in, so we're just going to get rid of this, and we're going to put the motor on first. I was just jumping ahead to putting this on first because A, the instructions don't give you anything other than put all of these parts on at the same time. And B, I thought, well, it's not a thing that needs to be square, so I can just bolt that in whenever and wherever, and it will work. But no, it actually turns out putting the motor on first makes a lot of sense. You hit better than 1 millimeter on this easily if you set it up well. Perfect! That is what I wanted to hear. Yeah, I mean, I know that these things get a bad rap, but hopefully it will be good enough to make some interesting Beetle parts. It'd be really nice to be able to build a new version of the Melty just from home, basically. And be able to rapidly, like within a day, make 3 different versions of the Melty and try like different chassis lengths and stuff. Wow. Speaking words good today, apparently. Completely wrong. This one. Yes, this one. Okay. Melty at home. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I am setting myself up to be making lots of tests with the Melty. One of the next things that we're going to do a video on, well, I say next things, it's probably going to be like the middle of next month now, to be honest, is we're going to talk about a test box that is big enough to fit a Melty in and run a Melty in, which is going to be so much fun. But it's going to be a very big build, so it's a little while away yet. But again, once I've got that set up and then I've got this set up, we'll be able to like cycle through Melty tests, which will be great. Because nothing teaches you what works quite like testing it properly. And only being able to test something in the actual arena is always a bit of a pain. Alright, where do we go? Here we go. Alright, now let's get these back on. Just making sure that they're not going to be annoying for anything else. No, I think the rods, top and bottom, should be easy enough to do without that. Yes. Alright, here we go. And then also, interestingly, so here on this side rail, there is definitely, and you can't see that, hang on, let's go this way. Here, there are 2 little tapped holes. These definitely look like endpoint switch tapped holes. That's cool. Can we cut UHMW on this machine? I don't know. I hope so. That would be really good. I want to use this machine to cut HDPE. So UHMW is, as far as I'm aware, not too much difference from a machining standpoint. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat there. I could be wrong on that. I haven't ever really machined UHMW. It's harder to get UHMW here in Australia than it is to get HDPE, so I do a lot of HDPE stuff. Is effectively what happens there. All right, so we've got our threaded, our rods here. Now, what do we need for these? Probably an M6. Yes, an M6 by 16. Ah, yeah, the big boys. There we go. Yes, I've seen people say that they can cut alley on a 60/40, and I do. That's part of the reason I wanted a 60/40, and I still do want a 60/40, but again, I don't have space in my house for a 60/40. So this is my compromise to myself here. That we do this until I move into a house where I have enough space for a 60/40. I don't particularly like just kind of hanging these rods here off of a single screw, but I guess it's kind of needed to get everything set up and get the Z-axis in place. Z-axis? Z-axis? One of those. I don't even know how to pronounce it right now. It is late. We're rapidly approaching midnight here, so... depth of the cut probably lighter, but you should be able to cut alley on this as well. Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, because the whole thing is like thick aluminium extrusion, I'm hoping that going slowly I'll be able to cut aluminium out of this. I don't know how realistic of a goal that is, but I mean, at least this one feels like it might be able to do it, whereas there are other 3018s around that I've seen that have like plastic side rails and stuff on them, and I'm sure that those could not cut aluminium because, yeah, at a bare minimum, you need your frame to be at least as rigid, if not more rigid than the material you're cutting. At least I think. Again, I am very much a CNC noob here. Like, I'm not an authority and never ever will claim to be an authority. So, okay, we've got another backlash nut to put in. Yeah. I'm gonna get Ben to cut out some AR-500 weapons from my ants. Oh, no. No. There's no way this machine would ever do that. And I'm pretty sure you're joking about that, but, whew, no. Just making me think about that, eek. Alright, let's get this boy set up. Again, we need another backlash nut in. You're not gonna like the fact that you have the Z plate on before you can get the side. Yeah, I'm gonna have to hang the weight of this, which is actually fairly chunky, like it is all alley. That's gonna have to slide on here. In fact, I might even... Is that the right idea? I think I'm going to tighten these bolts up. I think I'm going to tighten those so that they're a little bit more supported, maybe? None of this feels nice, necessarily. Alright, that's for the M5s. Yes. Oh, also, actually, I've got a whole nother one of these to put on yet. So let's ignore the inherent incoming unniceness that is putting on the Z-rail before I tighten everything down by putting on the other back panel. A bit is power and a bit is mass dampening resonances for cutting. Yeah, you go, okay, cutting shallower. Okay. The spindle on this one is this little boy. It's like 52mm motor, but it's only really kind of short and stubby. I do have the 52mm motor that is the regular, like about yay big size, so I can upgrade this in future if I want to. But for now, I'm going to run it exactly as is, as sent from factory, mostly because that means that I can write G-code that tells the motor spindle to spin at a certain speed, and it will just run that speed directly from the controller, because the controller actually, well, as far as I'm aware, controls spindle speed on these. Whereas if I put in my other motor, I would have to dial in the spindle speed with its motor controller that it comes with. Wow, this is a problem, trying to tighten this bolt up. Oh, also, yeah, you can see you've got two little shots of this because it's now popping up into the face cam here. Put a mini mag in there. I mean, to be honest, when the 2812 I had problems with the spindle motor and that, I very seriously considered swapping it to a brushless motor, and then realized that that was beyond the scope of my abilities and abandoned the project. My suggestion would be to put the machine on its side, get the Z plate on, and then get the side plate on with the screws loose. Oh yeah, that is a great idea. Okay. 8 people watching and only 6 likes, hey? Oh. Yeah, okay, cool. I mean, I have OBS, so I have my setup over there. I can see chat, but I've also got OBS over top of my setup, so I didn't actually know how many of you were sitting here watching me, but nice. That's really cool. But yes, I am going to take Russell's advice again, I think, because yes. I can't lay sideways because I've got a motor here, unfortunately. That's a bit of a shame, because otherwise, yeah, that would be the way to go. Can I do it that way anyway? I think so. Let's try. Well, first we need to remove this. Let's try this. Can you still see what I'm doing? Absolutely no, you cannot. I don't know if I can fix that issue. No, I don't think I can. Without really making this a little bit awkward. That might work. All right, there we go. I think we can move ahead now. So we're gonna put in the other anti-backlash nut, which I think we've only got one of these to go in. Yes. I mean, I've got 2 springs, but I've only got 1 more nut, so we're just gonna put 1 in. And apparently it goes on this side. Use electronic box to hold X in place. As in this boy. Where's my... yes, here we go. Am I gonna be tall enough? I don't think so. I think we're just gonna leave it like this for now. It's a little precarious, but it should be okay. The Z plate, put it in front. I mean, this is my Z here. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna put this nut in at the very least, because that I definitely know needs to be a thing. Which way around does it go? Okay, it goes in that way. And we'll get the screw in here. It is a little precarious, although there is a lot of weight in the bed and everything. So it should be fine. Like, yeah, I don't think it's gonna fall necessarily. All right, I'm gonna sit this back down for the moment. I'm gonna get the rod into the Z. Put the cardboard box in front of the gantry to hold the Z plate. Okay, yeah. Cool. All right, I think I'm on board with what you mean by that. It's to stop the Z plate from crashing into this end here, I think. Right. But let's thread this boy in at the very least. This is the other problem. This is hard to do and get the backlash nut to like sit in a place that it's going to be sprung. But there we go. We got that in. Nice. It's not a lot of weight, I just send it. Oh, I'm gonna have to sit here and like screw this for a little while to get this to go all the way down to where I want it to be. Ah, okay. 30 seconds while I'm more about not having the machine hold the weight while it's hanging over the edge. Yeah, that's a fair point. All right. Almost there on this though. Out. Get that out of the way. Happy midnight. Hey, it is indeed midnight here in Adelaide. Slightly later than I was intending to be streaming, but this has been good. This has been really good. I'm glad that I decided to do this on stream, and also I am excited to maybe get parts out of this thing tomorrow. That'd be really cool if I could get some parts out of this tomorrow. But we'll see, I guess. I mean, I'm gonna have to. Well, I'll get something out of it tomorrow, because I will at least cut some test pieces. Wow, the midnight is showing. Just watch me get worse and worse with words as we go along here. All right, you line up. You line up. Come on, there we go. Yes. All right, down we go. Ah, that was a good call. Oh, okay, actually, I'm not even... The thread isn't far enough down yet. Let's go further down. Because, as with the other one, I don't want to have the thread bottoming out in the coupling. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. So, grub screws. Good thing it's a Saturday night going on Sunday. Yes. Yes, indeed. If you don't put it in the middle, the lever arm will be less. Yes, yes, it is kind of late. But as mentioned, there is a video for this week that will be going live once I'm done streaming here. I do have the video. It is made. It just, I had issues with rendering software today, so it had to be delayed, unfortunately. Okay, something's gone wrong here. Oh, I've pushed the grub screw through. Yikes. All right, let's get that grub screw back out. I think by lifting this whole mechanism back up. Yeah, I think we weren't quite far enough down on our thread there, and I've dropped a grub screw into the coupling. Oh boy, that's going to be a pain. How do I get this thing back out in the least inconvenient way? Oh god. Alright, where did that go? Oh, there it is. Okay. I've got a pair of pliers. It's dropped into the channel here. I don't have a magnetic screwdriver. Well, not handy. But I do have a little pair of pliers. Probably should have just gone with a little pair of pliers from the get-go, to be honest. That probably would have worked even in the coupling. The spring keeps falling out of these pliers, and it's very annoying. I should have just epoxy it in at some point. Okay. There we go. And not have to over-tighten. Yes, only 10:30 in Perth. Well, yes, you are a little bit further behind the rest of us here. Magnets. How do they work indeed? Alright, let's put this grub screw back in. And this time, when we go to tighten it down, don't do it too much, because that means that there is no rod in the way stopping it. Because that was the problem. The rod just was not far enough down, and it meant that there was nothing for the grub screw to grab onto. So, here we go. One more time. This time, hopefully, correctly. Right. There we go. All right, about there, I reckon. Oh, that's very loose. That's fine. Hello, are you gonna use the CNC to cut wood for an ant weight beetle weight? I always wondered why no one tries that. Yeah, look, here's the thing, wood is interesting. Wood can work, but I'm not really a subscriber of using wood in a combat robot. Because it breaks a lot, unfortunately, is the answer to that question, really. Well, it can break a lot, and certain types of wood are worse. Like MDF would be really, really bad in a combat robot, because it would just splinter and shatter. Although there are, like, the Adelaide League does allow wood, and people have used wood in the plastics division successfully because it's going up against things that are plastic. But yeah, hitting wood with a metal weapon and you just shatter it effectively. Yeah. So that's kind of it. I don't really mess with wood for combat robots, and I don't think I ever will, really. What? No. Don't want to lose another grub screw. Okay, no, that way. This is tricky. Okay. There we go. That should work. Should be enough in here now. I'm just trying to get this coupling done up tight enough. Here we go. Hopefully, I don't lose this other grub screw, because we're on number 2 now. Yes, it's tightened. Okay, cool. We're good. We're good. Can we leave it until you have the machine upright? Yeah, fair enough. Oh, that's a good point. I probably could have, actually. I might even undo this last grub screw until I've got the machine upright, because I feel like that's not gone in quite correctly. So let's do that. Let's leave that slightly unscrewed until the machine is more supported and upright. There we go. Okay. I definitely have prototyped robots with wood before. Like, I've laser cut MDF to then like glue it all together and make sure everything fits and works, and I'll be able to get screwdrivers in the right places to then cut laser cut steel and hardox and stuff. But actually fighting a wooden ant weight, no. Yes, yeah. Like I said, using laser cut wood as templates and guides for an eventual metal build is very, very handy. All right, now we are on to this step. So these ones need to go in the top, and again, you can't really see what I'm doing here. I really want light and fluffy timber. Going for the ablative armor approach. Yes, Razor is fully correct. That is how Very, Very Obvious was born. It was done as a wooden MDF prototype first, and then cut by Action Laser in Perth out of hardox forming. Yeah, and that was very cool. That, I think, was a really good way of doing it, because I knew how things went. And also, I got to use the wooden template to look at prototyping paint color schemes and stuff, which was really actually kind of handy at the end of the day. So we're gonna get some stuff in here. It does break. It does. You are right there. Yes, wood is a very, very easily replaceable armor type because you can just like laser cut wood fairly easily, and most maker spaces you can go to will have stuff that will let you laser cut wood. Like that makes it very, very easy. And look, I might end up making some wooden robots for like the B div at Adelaide, but I'll probably use them as lone bots rather than robots for myself because, again, like you said, it's more about a easily repairable thing than it is about a longevity thing. So yeah, all right, we're gonna get basically all the bolts in here, and then I guess I'm gonna have to flip it back this way to get everything square on the base, and then I don't know where we're gonna go from there. We're just gonna keep trugging along here. At least for the moment. Alright, these definitely are for this. Ah, there we go. That's locked in place. And this one. Okay, that's that one locked in place. Oh, I think, yeah, that's the other thing. We'll definitely want to put the bearing in before we swap this back down again. Imagine just sawdust in an explosion. Oh, yeah, I mean, that is the other thing. Yes, sawdust in the air is a bit of a problem. Not a huge problem. Like, you could overcome that problem fairly easily, one would say, but... yes, it would be an issue. I feel like I'm running out of bolts, and there we go. No, there are more bolts. Okay. Yes, no worries. Do I actually have exactly the number? Oh, I've got a spare, or 2 spares? 2 spares. Oh, no, I think maybe that's because they're for these. I better get that, because I don't have that many spares. I did just drop it on the ground. I'm not sure if that came up on the microphone because you guys said it was doing a good job with cancelling out anything other than my voice. I hope my voice has been okay enough volume-wise this evening as I've been kind of moving around all over the place and having my mic sitting literally here. Will my camera focus on it if I have my hand near it? Yeah, there we go. There's my microphone. You can trick my camera into showing it to you. Because I've just got like a NVIDIA auto background removal thingy because it's so much easier than having like green screens and yada 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 set up behind me. And I don't do this all that often. So around 2010 we were talking about having an MDF class for robots. Yeah, I think that having an MDF class I think is fine. But you need to have the entire class be wooden. I think that kind of helps. I mean, again, ARC runs a plastics class that you can put wood into, which I think kind of falls along kind of the same lines a little bit. What were the bolt sizes for the bearing? M5 by 10. Oh, they're the short boys. Okay. These little short boys in here. I was thinking those little short boys were going to be for the legs. Maybe something else is for the legs. I need to get our bearing out though. And get this in. Which, yes. I can see though that I need to get this back down so you can actually see what's going on. Because you can kind of see up here a little bit what's happening, but it's not the most clear thing in the world. I need to undo more grub screws. Again, we're running into grub screws. There are grub screws everywhere. Well, the other thing I might do at some point in the near future is once I'm happy with how everything's lining up in this machine, I might go through and Loctite all these grub screws in, just because, like, it's a CNC machine. It's going to see vibration, and I feel like these grub screws are going to back out on me, mostly because, you know, that's what grub screws do. They back out of things. All right, let's get this bearing down. There's not really any play in this bearing, so this bearing cannot be anywhere other than here. But the next thing we're going to have to do is going to have to try and square up this piece. So I think the way to do that is going to be to flip it down, like so. Lost an Allen key. Don't want to do that. All right. So we're now down. We're on the base. And I think all I need to do is so I need to get this guy square now. So it will be square to the floor because if it just sits down like that. Oh, as soon as I get... Yes, there we go. I needed to get the stepper motor off the ground so that this squares up to the floor. Cool, so that's square to the floor. Yes, Russell got there before I did. So the thing I need to work out now is where this needs to sit front to back, exactly. Yeah, so, because it's got a little bit of wobble in it. Now, is it going to be... How would I mean... Best option is to pull it back. Pull it all the way back. And then, undo the other side and do the same? Pull the other side all the way back? It would be handy if I'd had the square, yes. I probably should have gone to get it, but I didn't. The other thing I do have calipers. I could just, like... I mean, this is not going to work. There's no way, right? Alright. 33.8. The calipers are kind of indicating... Yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. Pull it at the screw, so yeah, down here. Okay, yeah, I see that. Now. Okay, right. If I push down and try and wiggle it. That's interesting. Okay. Right, I think we're good. Because if you pull it back, so here's the thing. This is going to be impossible to show you on camera. Maybe. Let me try. Because I think this is interesting. So I'm going to see if I can kind of zoom down. Yes. So it's sitting flush with the ground, right? But if I push forwards, it raises up at the front, and you can barely see there's a little gap just at the front there. But if I let it sit exactly on the floor and push back, it only goes to there. So forwards is wrong because it's twisted. Back is right because it's flush to the ground. Maybe. But it did look okay with the calipers. Using the back of the caliper and lining up square-ish on the back. 33.9. Maybe. If you want to use calipers, snug the bolts up a little and then give it the old tappy tap to align. Hey, we can get the mallet out. That's for sure a thing. I have a mallet. let's zoom back out. That ring's doing nothing, right? Yeah, cool. All right, let's snug the bolts up a little bit. Kind of, might want to loosen the bolts on the other side. Best bet, tighten this down as best you think, then whack the calipers on it and hit it. Yeah, righto, we can do that. I mean, I could loosen up the other side a little bit as well. But, I mean, as long as they're square to each other, that should be it, right? Again, I'm not, like... certainly not an expert on this type of stuff. More than happy to have the help here this evening. Right, let's just get these finger tight where I think is square, effectively. So finger tight should let it move still, especially with a bit of percussive maintenance. I also need to square it front to back. Okay. I'd snug it up while pushing back, then tram once you get the spindle in as a tramming jig. Yeah, okay. I can see that. But I do need to square it up front to back. Right. Well, let's throw the calipers on it again. 3.8, 3.9. Huh, okay. Cool, so yeah, I do actually need to loosen up this other side and pull back a little bit to get it to sit down properly. Good thing these were not like super tight, they were just barely Allen keyed tight. So we can sort that out a little ways. All right, let's pull this back a little. Finger tighten. All right, where's the calipers gone? Sure. Yeah. Oh, thank you for all your help, Russell. It's been really good having you here. I mean, look, I think we're very close to the end now. We're literally at a point of like put the spindle in, and connect wires up and stuff. So I could almost finish stream here. Well, once we've got this carriage tightened down and squared up, I think I'm gonna basically be done for the evening. So. Alright, well that's good. And that's good. Okay, I think those are squared up, actually. With the calipers, they are lining up about the same. So we're just going to make sure we don't really adjust them too much as they get tightened down. And hopefully, that should be... And yeah, the table is almost empty with parts because they're basically all on here. And the only things left are, again, the electronics, which is... were jettisoned out of the box immediately onto the floor down over here. So, yes. Good things. All right, I think I'm just going to tighten these bolts down a little bit more. And then double check the calipers. Three. Back that way a little bit, and then tighten these guys down, and that should be that, I think. That'll be good. What is the spring for? I think it's... Honestly, it came in the same bag as the springs for the backlash nuts, so I think it's a spare. Because the instructions don't talk about it. So I have a feeling it's a spare spring for the backlash nuts, and that's what I'm going to be using it for. Is a spare. Right, okay, I think we're pretty good on this. I will just tighten these up and do a quick check. And if they're not quite right, we may get the hammer out. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. I'm happy with that. Yeah. The calipers are showing the same thing on both sides. I mean, the calipers only go down to 0.1 of a mil or something, or 0.2 of a mil. 0.1 of a mil. Yeah, so they're showing within 0.1 of a mil on both sides, so you know what? I think I'm going to call that pretty good. Yeah, so that's that bit done. The next bit is to... Let's take a look. Well, okay, it doesn't actually ever tell me to put the feet on, so I guess I'm just doing that in my own time. But it does tell me that the next thing to do is to put my thread ends on my... Oh, that's right, I never actually tightened up this up here, so we should do that. This boy up here is not connected, the motor is not connected to the thread yet. Because we were leaving that for this exact moment. As long as I get the right Allen key, we'll be able to do it. Okay, that's that. Now let's rotate back this way. Tighten this up again. Ah, so glad. There's a tiny, tiny gap between these two back rails here that I can get the Allen key in. Now that it's aligned, you should be right to put the feet on. Yeah, I think so too. So in fact, that is what we're going to do next. Now, these feet are just rubberized feet. I think those bolts were supposed to be... Ah, here we go. There's 4 bolts here with T-nuts on them. That has got to be the feet bolts. Because I don't really think that they would fit anywhere else. So we're just going to use those. Oh, wow. This is heavy now. Now that it's all together, it's a chunky beast. And we need to hang it over the edge anyway, because I don't want to rest the weight of the machine on that top lead screw. That would be a bad idea, I think. Yeah. So, little feetsies go down the bottom here somewhere. But yes, yeah, no, we definitely need the feet on so that we don't have to hang the motor over the edge of the table anymore. Because that is kind of annoying to do, to be honest. And yes, these bolts definitely are for the feet, I think. Definitely, I think, he says. I'm doing the good English this evening. Because, yeah, these are smaller than the M5s we've been using. For sure. I need to get a hand in and hold things steady. The lack of things to like prop this up anymore is actually interesting. Doing this step actually kind of difficult, to be honest. But cool, we've got 1 foot. We have a foot. It's got to be 10 to 15 kilos. Yeah, possibly, actually. And yes, I don't have to disassemble everything. I had a oh no moment after I found the feet, after we'd put these rails in, and I was like, after we put these rails in, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to like put these on at some point. But then I saw that the nuts in here are just T-nuts, so yeah, you literally can just like do this, and then hit them with an Allen key, and they should just slot or spin into place and grab and be fine. Um, yeah. I mean, I have mixed results with T-nuts. Sometimes you put them in and they just do not spin into place properly, which is a real pain, and I don't like that. But yeah. All right. Bye, Russell. Thank you so much for all of your help. It has been fantastic. This thing would not have come out anywhere near as good as this without you in chat this evening. So thank you very much. If you do make it over to an ARC event, yeah, that'd be great to see you over here. Yeah, more people fighting, always a good thing. Hopefully you do at some point manage to get back to an ARC event. Yes. Cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. Nick has got it right. Devil T-nuts. I'm fully on board with this. All right. Now we're gonna try. The machine is like right here. My camera's kind of freaking out about it. Are we at 3 hours? Oh, we are too. Damn. Okay. Well, like I said, this is probably going to be about where we leave it. I'm not sure that doing the wiring on camera is going to be that exciting or thrilling, but yeah, having the machine together on its feet, with this, I might put the spindle in, I reckon, just to kind of wrap that up nicely, have it looking like an actual CNC machine when we call it a night here in half a second. I have no idea if you're going to be able to see what I'm doing because my auto background may just completely wipe that out for you, but yes, we're just going to add these last 2 feet, put the spindle in, and we'll be pretty good on this. Certainly on the home straight. Right. Last foot. Also, these rubber feet are going to be great too. Instagram complete with the spindle. Yes. Well, I mean, yeah, I'll probably throw a photo up on Instagram, to be honest. Because, you know, why not? Also, oh, that's the other thing. I didn't tighten down, I don't think. Yeah, I got to tighten down this other side. All right, we've got feet. Ah. It is a heavy boy. Definitely heavier than the last machine. That's good, though. I am, like, very excited about the fact that this thing is heavier because that means it's going to actually, you know, be a bit stronger and maybe survive some more stuff that I throw at it. So I'm excited for that, actually. Right, you and you. Let's just make sure these aren't going to go anywhere. Oh, yeah, these ones were loose as well. Cool. Oh, I wanted to put that on there so that I've got a handle for it so I can move things around a little bit because that'll be very good. Is this the right Allen key? No, it's too small. Allen keys. Other Allen key. Other Allen key. I mean, they included a lot of Allen keys, and actually you do need them all. So, I guess that would make sense, right? That they only include Allen keys you actually need. It'd be very silly of them to include maybe a quick clip of it running on Insta. A quick clip of it catching fire on Insta. I don't like how little faith you have in me here. Yeah, look, maybe I'll throw a clip of it running on Instagram tomorrow once I've actually got it running. Oh, that's interesting. I'm getting a little like weird sound coming out of it. No dodgy crimped connectors on this one. Well, I mean, look, the spindle motor actually looks pretty good. It does have a connector cable on it, so that's not bad. Certainly better than some things I've seen. All right, now what does the instruction say? Because I do have this little like plastic coupley thing, which, oh boy. I see. Okay, this plastic coupley thing is to put other motors into this clamp. So we don't need that, I don't think. I'm just going to get rid of it. Is it wobbling? Oh, it is wobbling. You're very right about that. I think that might be to do with this clamp not being correct. So we're going to undo that. Yeah, I think I over-tightened this clamp. Yeah. Oh, I see what I did. Yeah. I had a grub screw too tight, and the lead screw wasn't all the way down when I clamped it, and so it's clamped off the lead-in chamfer down here, and it hasn't worked out quite a lot. Let's just back both of these scrub screws out a decent way so that I know they're out of the road. Oh, now we've got feet. I can like push Allen keys under this thing and they come out. All right, you up, you. Up. Okay. Yeah, there we go. That's a much nicer connection. We're going to back it out just a little bit. Here we go. And now we put the grub screws back in, and it should be all good. Yeah, so that was just me messing up the grub screw placement. That wasn't actually the machine being wobbly. Thankfully. Because with that amount of wobble, I was very worried for a second that maybe the lead screw was bent, but it doesn't look like it. I think we're okay. Oh, yeah, look at that. Smooth as butter. That's looking so much better. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that now. All right, let's get the motor in and call it an evening, and then I will, as mentioned, release this video of Robo Wars Sportsman before going to bed myself, to be honest. Because it is about that time. Well, it's past that time, to be perfectly honest. It's been a while since I've done a midnight, but here we are. All right, let's also put this collet together because I've got parts for the collet, so we might as well get that together while we're here. Now this is a 1/8" collet. I think I've got, because these are E11, I reckon. And yeah, it did stop. Well, it stopped making the noise a little bit. It's still not quite right, but it is definitely better. I will adjust it in the morning. Again, I think we're kind of at the point now where I'm just like getting this to Instagram ready, and then I'm going to go to bed. Because yes, it is indeed midnight. Yeah. The Brisbane events are good fun, especially the Robot Wars event, the Robo Wars events. Sorry. The featherweights, they do quite well up there. So, right. But yes, like I said, I'm pretty sure I have a set of collets that I can run in this. which will be good. But for now, again, we're just gonna use what was provided. I'm not even gonna tighten this really. I'm just gonna finger tighten this, get the nut on. Cool. There we go. It's looking good. Yeah. I think we're gonna go that way with the spindle wires. I'm just gonna sit this about here. Also interesting, there is a nut on the back of this. It's not tapped, like everything else in this build has been. Everything has been tapped, but this is not. It's actually got square nuts on the back of the casing here, which actually just let me turn this around and show you. Just in here, little square nuts. Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, we need Citizen Flips to be at Adelaide if you can get him here or get it here. I mean, I know that it's hard to travel with with gas-powered robots. So I mean, we obviously try and help you out as best we can in that, but yeah. Yes, I understand that trying to travel with gas is, or yeah, that type of robot can be kind of tricky, but it'd be great. It'd be great to see Citizen Flips here. So yeah, it possibly is. It possibly is so that if the nut strips out, you can replace it without having to replace the entire part, because that would be a real pain in the butt to do. But there we go. I think this is where we're going to call it an evening, because we are basically together. I mean, it's just the electronics and then, you know, testing and all of that fun stuff that we'd need to do from this point on. We've got a very decent way with a lot of your help out there. Thank you to everybody who helped out with trying to square everything up and get it all trammed in. And yeah, the machine is a lot better now than it would have been if I had done this on my own entirely. So definitely a few little bits and pieces I will go back through and try and clean up and clear up and get nicer. But I think we're ready to actually, you know, once we put the electronics in, it will be ready to move around and maybe cut some beta weight parts at the very least. So anyway, yeah. Thank you very much for coming along, joining the stream, hanging out. And yeah, I will throw that new video live and you can head on over and watch what happened at Robot Wars, well, at Robo Wars, for me, for the fights that I got in. Anyway, thank you all. See you all later.